Chapter 990, Gu Dajiang's obsession. After the two of them finished the discussion, footsteps sounded outside the kitchen. Soon, Gu Dafeng pushed open the door. When she entered and saw the two of them working, she immediately smiled. Qingyuan, Yundong's father is calling for you. Hurry up and go. We're here. Shao. Qingyuan washed his hands. All right, thank you, eldest aunt. I'll go talk to Uncle Gu first. Go, go. Gu Dafeng waved her hand. After they left, she looked meaningfully at Gu Yundong. The latter silently turned her back to her. Eldest aunt, we didn't do anything. You have to trust us. What are you shy about? Gu Dafeng leaned behind her and said with a smile, it's been so long since you last met. It's fine for you to talk. Eldest aunt has been there before, and the two of you are engaged. It's fine. No one gossips at home. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Eldest aunt, be more reserved. She sped up her actions and went to the cupboard to get the eggs. At the same time, she avoided eldest aunt Gus' mysterious smile. That night, the Gu family was very excited. Gu Dajiang had won the county case. This was something he had never thought of before. To him, it was like fulfilling a dream. Many years ago, before he went to the county exam, he was directly forbidden by his parents and the patriarch from going out. All his efforts were for naught. No one knew that taking the Imperial examination had actually become an obsession that he had buried in the bottom of his heart. Now that his wish had been fulfilled and his results were so gratifying, he was happy. Really, he was especially happy. Coupled with the fact that his life was getting better and better with his family by his side, his mood was very complicated. He could not help but drink a few more glasses of wine. In the end, he actually felt a little drunk. Gu Yundong was still worried when she helped him back to his room. She stretched out a hand and asked him, Father, how many is this? Do you really think I'm drunk? It's just a few glasses of wine. Why are you worrying for nothing? How many is this? Gu Yundong insisted. Gu Dajiang sighed. 3, I can see clearly. I'm not seeing things. All right, you've been busy for the entire day. Hurry up and rest. Your mother will take care of me from here. Only then did Gu Yundong relax slightly. Mother, if father is not feeling well, you have to go out and call us, understand? Yes, I know. Madame Yang nodded obediently. Gu Yundong then turned around and left the room. As soon as the door closed, Gu Dajiang collapsed on the bed. Madame Yang helped him take off his coat. Unexpectedly, just as she reached out, he wrapped his arms around her waist and pressed her down. Lun Yang, I am happy today. Teacher and old tribe leader can finally be at ease. I did not let them down, I have the face to meet them in the future. This is great, this is great. Madame Yang blinked and slowly wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Then, she kissed his eyes. Dajiang is the best in the world. Gu Dajiang smiled even more happily. He held her face and said gently, Lun Yang too. Gu Yundong hid outside and listened attentively for a moment. After being fed a mouthful of dog food, she rubbed her arms and quickly left. However, the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Their lives would definitely get better and better in the future. The next day, as expected, Gu Dajiang woke up late. When he went out, his head still hurt. It was only when the kitchen brought him some hangover soup that he felt slightly better. Dong Shilan came at this time, but her expression didn't seem right. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 991, Don't worry, I didn't agree. Gu Yundong found it strange and was about to ask. However, Dong Shilan quickly put on a smile and handed over the basket in her hand. Your father won the county championship. Your family was busy yesterday, so I couldn't disturb you. Take this. It's a congratulatory gift. Not only were there vegetables, fruits, and eggs in the basket, but there was also a red packet. Although it's not much, this is a token of my appreciation. You must accept it. 300 copper coins was indeed not much for Gu Yundong. However, to Dong Xiulan, it was already a very thick red packet. Gu Yundong accepted it and let her in. Dong Xiulan happened to have something to ask Gu Dajiang, so she followed her into the central room. Brother Gu, is the county examination difficult? Gu Yundong poured her a cup of tea and sat opposite her. She could not help but look at her in surprise. Aunt, why are you asking this? Here it goes. I'm thinking if I should let my eldest son take the exam too. Although we don't plan to let him become an elementary scholar or high scholar, it's good for him to be a preparation scholar. If he becomes the preparation scholar, he can also be a private school teacher who enlightens children. I can be at ease. In the beginning, the Xing family had really never thought of taking the Imperial examination. They just felt that it would be easy to find work later if he could read. Didn't they see that all the employees in Yundong's shop had to read and record accounts? However, when they saw that Gu Dajiang had won the county championship, the entire village was in a heated discussion. They felt very excited and proud. Dong Xiulan couldn't help but be tempted. Gu Dajiang was very supportive of such things. If Xianxia has such thoughts, I can tell him about the county examination. As for whether it's easy or not, I'll have to try it to know. I can only say that there are hundreds of students participating in the county examination, but only 50 are on the rankings in the end. Madame Dong really didn't know about this. She was a little surprised. 50 out of a few hundred? Didn't this mean that if he wanted to be on the rankings, he had to be in the top 50 of the county? This was too difficult. She hesitated again. Gu Yundong said, Xianxia is still young. He can still study for a few more years. Aunt, you don't have to be in such a hurry. Dong Xiulan nodded. That's true. I have to go back and ask him. With that, she stood up and was about to leave. Gu Yundong sent her out. Dong Xiulan asked her to stop and walked towards her house. Unexpectedly, just as she was about to enter her courtyard, someone suddenly came out from the side and pulled her over. Dong Xiulan exclaimed, what are you doing? Gu Yundong was about to turn around when she heard the voice. She immediately looked up, but she only saw Dong Xiulan being pulled to the corner. As for the person who pulled her, Dong Xiulan blocked them and she could not see clearly. Gu Yundong was shocked and quickly scolded, what are you doing? Let go of her. As she spoke, Gu Yundong strode towards the Dong family. However, when she turned the corner, she only saw Dong Xiulan standing there alone. The person who had pulled her away had already left. Aunt, are you all right? Gu Yundong quickly looked down at her. Dong Xiulan waved her hand. It's okay, it's okay. I'm fine. Gu Yundong frowned. Who was that person just now? Do you know them? Are they from our village or an outsider? Did they want to harm you? Dong Xiulan quickly shook her head. No. She's from our village and asked me for help, but don't worry, I didn't agree. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 992, Thick-skinned Gu Yundong was stunned. She had always been sharp. From what Dong Xiulan said, the person who asked her for help seemed to have something to do with her. Otherwise, why would Dong Xiulan reassure her? Dong Xiulan did not realize what she had exposed. She pulled Gu Yundong out. All right, it's fine. Go back. Didn't you say that you're going to the prefectural city? Hurry up and prepare the things. I'll go take a look at Qingyuan. Brother Shao has gone to the county town. Gu Yundong pulled her back. Auntie, why did that person ask you for help? It has something to do with me, right? Do they want to enter the workshop, or be a shop assistant, or grow fruit trees in an orchard? Dong Xiulan was stunned. How did Yundong know that the person's request had something to do with her? She didn't want to answer. No. It has nothing to do with you. If Auntie doesn't tell me, I'll take it that the people from the other villages have ulterior motives and I'll go to look for the village chief. Gu Yundong was about to leave when Dong Xilan hurriedly grabbed her. She couldn't dissuade her, so she sighed and said irritably, "It's someone from our village." That person just now was the wife of the second son of the Li family. The second son of the Li family? Who was that? Seeing that she had not thought of him, Dong Xilan quickly reminded her, "It's the family that adopted Qingyuan, the second son of the Li family." Gu Yundong did not like the Li family at all. Hearing this, she frowned. "Haven't we never interacted? Why are they looking for you?" "The second son of the Li family is about to get married. He's marrying He's niece, He Shao. I don't know what they're thinking. They want me to make peace in front of Qingyuan and let him attend the wedding banquet. They even said that what eldest Li and his wife did was unforgivable, but they didn't harm Qingyuan. No matter what, Qingyuan has called them second uncle and second aunt for so many years. They're all relatives and should get along." Gu Yundong? Relatives? In the past, when Shao Qingyuan lived alone in the straw hut, why didn't second uncle and second aunt say that they were relatives? Moreover, the last time she went to old Master Li's house to cause a scene, she seemed to have exposed old Master Li's true colors, right? Shao Qingyuan had a grudge against old Master Li. As his son, how could he have the cheek to say that they were relatives? Indeed, the charm of money was irresistible. If Shao Qingyuan was still a poor kid without money, they wouldn't have to go through this. However, this was not the end, Dong Xilan continued, "There's also the He family. They heard that Xuanze's family went to the prefectural city and insisted that I come to look for you. They said that they wanted you to send a message to Dajiang and his wife so that they could come back for the wedding banquet. They said that there was some unhappiness last time. They wanted to take this opportunity to reconcile." The He family really didn't know that Xuanze's family had gone to the prefectural city. They thought that Dajiang and his wife were at least staying at home. Unexpectedly, when they came over, the house was locked. Gu Yundong was speechless. So severing ties was a joke. These two families really knew how to find soft persimmons to bully. They knew that Dong Xilan had a good relationship with them and was soft and easy to talk to, so they asked her to persuade them. No wonder Auntie's expression was not good when she entered just now. "Auntie, you don't have to worry about it. In any case, we're going to the prefectural city tomorrow. They won't be able to find us." Dong Xilan nodded. "I know. I didn't plan to agree to them either. They're just too annoying." She would go to the workshop in a while. The second son of the Li family's wife did not dare to look for her in the workshop anyway. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 993, Awkward Situation. Gu Yundong did not care about the marriage between the Li family and the He family, let alone their unreasonable request. The next day, the Gu family and the Shao family drove the carriage away from Yongfu village. They left early and set off before dawn. However, not long after they left, second brother Li and his wife slowly arrived at the foot of the mountain. They first poked their heads in front of the Shao family's door for a while. In the end, they were a little afraid and did not dare to enter. After some thought, they ran to the Gu family's door. The Gu family's main door was open, and the concierge, Father Tong, was also there. Li Dunzi took a few steps forward, but when he saw Father Tong looking over, he quickly retreated. His wife, Madame Du, suddenly patted him. "What are you doing? Hurry up and say something." Father Tong frowned. Of course, he knew these two people. They were from the second branch of the Li family. Didn't they have a grudge against the young master? They were probably here to cause trouble, right? At the thought of this, Father Tong immediately walked towards them. "What do you want?" The two of them were shocked. They turned around and ran off. Father Tong was speechless. As expected, they were up to no good. It looked like they had a guilty conscience. The old master and young lady had just left, and only the two young masters had gone to the county to study. He had to talk to the two young masters later and ask them to pay attention to these two people. With that thought in mind, Father Tong quickly entered the house. As for Li Dunzi and his wife, after running a few steps, they suddenly realized that they were here to look for the Gu family. Why were they scared away by an old man? Madame Du slapped him hard again. You only have the guts of a rat. Useless, useless. All right, stop hitting me. If you have the guts, go forward. Madame Du did not dare. Be it Shao Qingyuan or Gu Yundong, they were not to be trifled with. However, there was nothing they could do. They really could not live like this anymore. Although they had drawn a clear line with the eldest branch, after the things that the old man had done were exposed, their branch was also criticized. Seeing that the villagers' lives were getting better and better, but they were getting worse and worse, the envy in their hearts could kill them. However, if that was all, it would be fine. The problem was that the Li family was ostracized. Many families in Yongfu village worked for the Gu family. Even if they did not work for them, they hoped that they would be chosen to enter the workshop and shop one day. Therefore, they kept a respectful distance from the Li family, who did not get along with the Gu family. Of course, there were also some people who could not stand the Gu family and badmouthed them behind their backs. These people were willing to interact with the Li family, but Li Dunzi was unwilling to mix with them. They had personally seen Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan teach their eldest brother and sister-in-law a lesson, so they did not have the courage to go against the Gu family. Besides, didn't they see that the village chief was also on the Gu family's side? The Gu family also knew the big shots in the county city and the prefectural city. Wouldn't it be easy to deal with people like them? Just like that, the second and third branches of the Li family became awkward. Not only were their lives poor, but even their son's marriage had become a huge problem. It was not easy to settle down with He Xiao. He Xiao was He Yes' niece. He Yes' family and the Gu family were so close. Perhaps they could ease their relationship on account of He. Unexpectedly, the entire Shi family had gone to the prefectural city. Therefore, they could only look for Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong themselves, hoping that they would come to support their son on his wedding day. This way, everyone would know that their family actually had a good relationship with the Shao and Gu families and would not have a difficult time. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 994, we have something for Shao Qingyuan Li Dunzi and his wife's side. After looking at each other, they turned around and wanted to walk back to the Gu residence. Dong Shilan had just left the house when she saw them. She quickly went forward and said, "Why are you here again? Are you still not giving up?" Madame Du was a little angry when she saw her. If she hadn't refused to help, the couple wouldn't have come here. Don't worry about it. Since you're unwilling to help, we'll do it ourselves. We're not trying to harm Qingyuan and the others. Is it wrong to invite them to the wedding? Dong Shilan frowned. You guys should leave. Qingyuan and Yundong have already left Yongfu village and returned to the prefectural city. What? He left? Li Dunzi couldn't help but exclaim. Madame Du grabbed Dong Xiaolan's hand and asked anxiously, why did he leave? When did he leave? Why didn't we see him? They left early this morning. It must have been more than 2 hours. Li Dunzi and Madame Du looked at each other and couldn't help but slap their thighs. There was a main road from the Gu family to the outside of the village. There was no need to pass through the village at all, so no one saw when they left. They were too late. Dong Shilan saw their vexed expressions and thought that they should have given up since they couldn't find her. Hence, she withdrew her arm from Madame Du's hand and walked towards the workshop. She still had work to do, so she had no time to care about their entanglement. Unexpectedly, after taking a few steps, Madame Du stopped her again. Zheng He's wife, wait. What else do you want? Dong Shilan was impatient. Madame Du glanced at Li Dunzi. After a moment, she gritted her teeth and said, You, help us pass a message to them and invite them to the wedding banquet. Dong Shilan suspected that there was something wrong with her ears, and her face was filled with disbelief. In the past, the second branch of the Li family did not seem so unreliable. She had already said that they returned to the prefectural city, but they still wanted them to work themselves to death to rush back. On what basis? What were they thinking? Dream on. I say, Li Dunzi, although you didn't harm Qingyuan when he was young, you must have made a lot of sarcastic remarks. It's fine if he didn't argue with you, but you're still rushing to find trouble with him now, right? What makes you think he will listen to you? Do you think they have to come just because you asked him to attend the wedding banquet? Your brains must have been kicked by a donkey. With that, Dong Xilan walked around Madame Du and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, when they passed by Madame Du, she suddenly said, "We have something for him." Dong Xilan was stunned and stopped in her tracks. What do you mean? Madame Du glanced at Li Dunzi and said, "Back then, when the old man brought him back, he actually had something on him. Later on, when the old man wasn't paying attention, I took a handkerchief. We thought that the handkerchief might have been left behind by Qingyuan's biological parents and was related to his background." Dong Xiaolan's eyes widened and her breathing quickened. Are you serious? What about the handkerchief? It was about Qingyuan's background. She definitely had to get it back. It might be an important clue. At that time, Qingyuan would be able to find his parents. Dong Xilan was excited. Qingyuan had suffered for so many years and had no parents. If he could find them now, wouldn't that be a great thing? She suddenly looked at Li Dunzi and his wife. "Give me that handkerchief." "I'll give it to Qingyuan." Madame Du said, "Of course I hid the handkerchief well. I can't give it to you." Dong Xilan was a little angry. This couple was not good people. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 995, Letter. They had hidden such an important handkerchief for so many years and refused to take it out. If he had given it to Qingyuan earlier, he might have been able to find his parents earlier. Madame Du was a little shocked by her resentful gaze and could not help but take a step back. Li Dunzi braced himself and said, "We won't give it to you, but we will give it to Qingyuan. As long as you bring them a letter and let them come back for the wedding banquet, we will definitely hand the handkerchief to him personally." Dong Xilan pursed her lips unhappily. "That belongs to Qingyuan to begin with. Instead of returning it to him, you even took the opportunity to threaten him. How can this be called a threat?" Madame Du was dissatisfied, but she lowered her voice and said, "Even if we pick up things on the streets and return them to the owner, can't we ask them to express their gratitude? We're not asking him to give us money or anything. We even invited him to the wedding banquet." Dong Xilan sneered. "Did you pick it up? You took it directly from him. But if we hadn't taken it, that handkerchief might have been burned by my father long ago and nothing would have been left. Back then, when old Master Li brought the child back, he threw away and burnt everything on him. Not a single strand of hair was left. If not for her sharp eyes, she wouldn't have seen the handkerchief when she was wiping the baby's body. Thinking that her son had just been born and the material of this handkerchief was good, it was very suitable for children to use, so she quietly put it away. Otherwise, the handkerchief would have turned to ashes long ago. Shao Qingyuan would never know his true identity." Dong Xilan was so angry that she couldn't speak, but what the woman said made sense. Moreover, this matter concerned Qingyuan after all, so she took a deep breath and said, "All right, I'll help deliver the message. But whether they decide to come back or not is their own business." "Hey, thank you, sister." Madame Du immediately smiled and became happy. Dong Xilan felt very upset and turned around to go home. She did not dare to delay. She quickly got her son to bring out a brush and paper and wrote a letter to Qingyuan. After he finished writing, she instructed Xianxia to keep it a secret and not tell anyone. Then, she took the letter and headed to the Gu family's workshop. There was no one in the Shao family. Mao and the others had left with Shao Qingyuan. There were only Father Tong and a few women left in the Gu family. The only people Dong Xilan could trust to help with this matter were Tong Ping and Tong, and unexpectedly, when she arrived at the workshop, the two of them were not around. Dong Xilan felt that it was a pity. If they were here, they might have been able to catch up to Yundong and the others on horses. She could only go home for the time being and put the letter away. Xianxia saw that she was a little anxious and quickly comforted her. "Mother, there's no hurry. No matter what, Li Dunzi and his wife will only give the handkerchief to Brother Shao on the big day a month later. Whether we send the letter a day later or a day earlier, they will have to wait a month before returning." "You have a point." Dong Xilan nodded and settled down. She settled down and went to the workshop to work. As she worked, she waited for Tong Ping and his brother to return. Unexpectedly, she waited until night. When Tong Ping heard that she had a letter for Shao Qingyuan, he quickly promised to deliver it tomorrow. The Gu family would make a trip to the prefectural city to deliver the goods every few days. It just so happened that tomorrow was the day Tong Ping and the others would deliver the goods. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 996, Difficult. The next night, Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong received Dong Xiaolan's letter. The two of them were a little surprised. They could not care less about the fatigue of the day and hurriedly opened the letter. After reading it, the two of them were stunned. "The second son of the Li family actually has your things?" Gu Yundong's face was filled with disbelief. Shao Qingyuan frowned slightly and shook his head. "When old Li carried me home, he exchanged clothes with the third young master of the Tao family. That handkerchief might belong to the third young master of the Tao family. But it's also possible that it's yours." Gu Yundong was unwilling to let go of the only clue. After reading the letter just now, eldest brother Shao's eyes clearly lit up. This meant that he was actually looking forward to finding his biological parents. Since that was the case, what did it matter if he searched? Perhaps Brother Shao's family was still looking for him after so many years? No matter what, it's just a guess now. Since the second son of the Li family wants us to attend the wedding banquet, we'll go there in a month. We'll know the results after we get that handkerchief and investigate. Shao Qingyuan nodded. Okay. Say, if the second son of the Li family has your things, does that mean that the first son has something too? I don't think so. Even if there was, I'm afraid they sold it, Shao Qingyuan said. After old Li died, I searched first brother Li's house in order to find out his background, but I didn't find anything. Moreover, Auntie Dong's letter also said that old man Li had burned all the clothes and items he was wearing back then, leaving nothing behind. It was an accident that second brother Li could obtain that handkerchief. Moreover, first brother Li was a person who was afraid of death. If he really had something of Shao Qingyuan's, he would definitely use it as a bargaining chip when Shao Qingyuan went to beat him up. Gu Yundong felt a little regretful. It seemed that they could only wait until they saw second brother Li in a month. There's no hurry. Shao Qingyuan placed the letter on the candle and lit it. After watching it gradually burn to ashes, he said, "On the other hand, the cowpox vaccination can't wait. Tomorrow, we'll go to the Dai residence first and convey the Emperor's decree to Lord Dai." Speaking of this, Gu Yundong felt a headache. The Emperor was too good at giving people trouble. This is not easy to do. After all, no one has ever tried the cowpox vaccination. Everyone is afraid of death, and I'm afraid no one is willing to be the first test subject. Even if the Emperor spoke the truth and the Prince personally verified it, the distance is still too far. For most people, it's less convincing if they don't see it with their own eyes. Some people could get smallpox, but some people wouldn't. Even if they did, they might be able to survive. Everyone would think that they were the lucky ones. The cowpox vaccination method was just a prevention method, and it was a method that they had never seen before. Who was willing to take the risk? What if it failed and they died? The problem was that the Emperor had also issued a decree that they could not use too rough a method. There were only 4 words on Gu Yundong's mind: subdue people with virtue. As expected, they went to the Dai residence the next day. After Gu Yundong went to look for Madame Dai, Shao Qingyuan met the Prefecture Magistrate. After hearing the decree brought by Shao Qingyuan, the prefecture magistrate frowned fiercely. The first sentence was, "This matter is not easy to handle." He sighed and walked around twice. Finally, he stood in front of Shao Qingyuan and asked him, "Do you have an idea?" "There is one. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 997, It's Good If You Can't Get It. There was one. The prefecture magistrate instantly perked up and looked at him with burning eyes. Shao Qingyuan said, "At the end of the day, this matter is beneficial to the country and the people. However, the people don't believe us in their hearts. If we take the initiative to say that we want to help others with vaccination, I'm afraid they will still suspect that nothing good will happen. In that case, we might as well do the opposite and make people want it but can't get it. The people will take the initiative to ask for the inoculation. How do we take the initiative?" Prefecture Magistrate Dai was interested. What he said made sense. Shao Qingyuan whispered, "Tell them a story." "Huh? A story?" Prefecture Magistrate Dai was a little disappointed for a moment. He thought that he had an awesome extra idea, but it was just telling a story. But he asked anyway. "What story?" Shao Qingyuan told the story in a low voice. Prefecture Magistrate Dai nodded as he listened. A moment later, his eyes lit up. After hearing this, he suddenly clapped his hands. "Good, good. It's indeed a good way to lure people in. Let's do that. How about this? Write down the content first. Later, I'll get someone to find a storyteller to tell the story at the largest tea house in the prefectural city." Shao Qingyuan nodded, walked behind the desk, and picked up a pen. However, just as he finished the first line, he was despised by the prefecture magistrate. Hey, your writing is too plain. We have to be passionate, exciting, and high. Go to the side. I'll write. I'll do it." Shao Qingyuan stood up and looked at the first line of words he had written. The cowpox vaccination method is a new method to prevent smallpox. It has already begun to become popular in the capital. Yes, it was indeed a little plain. He then looked at the first sentence written by the prefecture magistrate. "As we know, our Dajiang is becoming more and more prosperous. The lives of the people are thriving day by day and have greatly improved. This is all because our emperor is a wise and mighty emperor who cares about the world. Ever since the emperor ascended the throne, he has worked hard for everyone to live a good life. Let's talk about the cowpox vaccination method." Shao Qingyuan frowned slightly. Although it likely consisted of flattery, it was much better than what he had written. Forget it, let's follow what the prefecture magistrate wrote first. The more prefecture magistrate Dai wrote, the more excited he became. The more he wrote, the more comfortable he became. In the end, he wrote 7 to 8 pages before stopping. He handed the papers to Shao Qingyuan. "Take a look. How's my writing?" Shao Qingyuan took it. To be honest, it was a little profound. However, it was definitely much better than his work. In any case, he could not write it. At the very least, the prefecture magistrate had written down the gist he wanted to express clearly. When he got back, he would let the storyteller speak more emotionally. It would definitely be very effective. Shao Qingyuan nodded. "Lord Dai is so literary." "Huh, your story is good. Lord Dai is good at writing." "That's not worth mentioning. Thankfully, you came up with such a good idea." Dai Wenhua, who had just reached the door of the study, happened to hear the two of them praising each other. The corners of his mouth could not help but twitch. He knocked on the door until someone came in. Then, he pushed the door open and entered. He looked at the two of them and said, "It's getting late. Mother asked me to look for you to eat in the reception hall." The prefecture magistrate suddenly realized that it was already past noon after writing for so long. Yes. Let's eat first and discuss the rest later." As he spoke, the prefecture magistrate took the lead and walked out. After taking a few steps, he returned and brought the papers with him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 998, Prefecture Magistrate Deus Flattery is too ruthless. Madame Dai and Gu Yundong were already sitting in the reception pavilion talking. When they saw them, they quickly stood up. The Prefecture Magistrate had already seen Gu Yundong. He immediately smiled and waved his hand. There's no need to be so polite. Everyone, sit down and eat first. After Gu Yundong sat down, she could not help but glance at Shao Qingyuan. She asked, "Have you discussed it with Uncle Dai?" "Yes." Before Shao Qingyuan could answer, the Prefecture Magistrate spoke first. He looked even happier than Shao Qingyuan. "Qingyuan is indeed a talent. He gave me a good idea." Everyone in the reception pavilion was family. The Prefecture Magistrate didn't hide anything and told them the results of their discussion in the study. Madame Dai nodded repeatedly. "That's true. It's better to do the opposite than to take the initiative to promote it. Isn't that so? If we directly put up an announcement or find a large number of people to persuade the commoners, the effect will not be much. We don't have the time and energy. Now, let the storyteller use his words to attract people and leave an extremely deep impression. Especially, let's tell the commoners that the vaccination time is limited and the number of people is limited. In order to snatch a spot, the commoners will eagerly participate." People were like this. People would be more anxious about limiting their purchases, afraid that such a good thing would not happen to them. However, if there were no restrictions and someone even told them that this was a mission given by the higher-ups and had to be completed, these people would feel that it might be disadvantageous to them. To be honest, Gu Yundong did not know this method either. She couldn't help but glance at Shao Qingyuan and ask them, "Then how do you plan to tell the story?" Prefecture Magistrate Dai laughed. "We've already written it down. Come, let me show you." He immediately handed over the few pages filled with words. Shao Qingyuan took a look. No wonder the Prefecture Magistrate had brought these pages with him when he went out previously. It turned out that he was showing off. Gu Yundong and the other two took it. Madame Dai and Dai Wenhua looked at it and nodded slightly, indicating that it was not bad. The writing is clear and smooth, the storyline is clear, and the logic is fine. The story is very voluptuous, the poems are quoted appropriately, and the beginning and end echo each other. Good. Gu Yundong was speechless. What should she do? Seeing that his wife and son had finished talking, the Prefecture Magistrate was still very satisfied. In the end, his gaze landed on Gu Yundong, but he saw that after she finished reading, her expression was strange and constipated. Prefecture Magistrate Dai's heart skipped a beat. Was there a problem? He thought that he had written it quite well and checked it once. There shouldn't be any typos. Well, Gu girl, how's my story? Gu Yundong could not bear to see him disappointed. He racked his brains and finally said, "There are quite a lot of praises for the Emperor. Uncle Dai's vocabulary is very amazing." The four people present were speechless. Forget it, it was better not to praise him. They were just short of saying that the Prefecture Magistrate's flattery was too ruthless. The Prefecture Magistrate wiped his face. You'd better tell the truth. I can still listen the truth. After all, this matter is very important. We have to be careful at every step. If this story is not good, we won't be able to achieve the effect we want. It won't be good for the vaccination method. We would have worked for nothing. Madame Dai hurriedly said, "Yes, yes, yes. Yundong, you have big ideas. Tell us what's wrong. If it's not good, we can change it in time. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 999, Ill-Right. Gu Yundong's gaze swept past the four of them one by one. After a while, she said softly, "Then I'll be frank? Go ahead." Even Shao Qingyuan looked at her eagerly. He felt that this idea was not bad, but if Yundong said no, he would quickly think of something else. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. There's nothing wrong with the story. It's just that it's not fascinating enough. The prefecture magistrate quickly leaned forward. How is it not enough? Uncle, our story is mainly for the commoners to hear. Most of the commoners can't read. Even if they know, they can't understand words that are too profound, especially these poems. We can understand them, but the commoners might not understand them. It was a story. Of course, it had to be simple and straightforward. It shouldn't be too pedantic. In that case, it makes sense. The prefecture magistrate nodded slightly and heard Gu Yundong continue. After all, a story is different from an article. In addition to being logical, the most important thing in the book is to set up suspense to attract people's attention so that people can guess and look forward to the next plot. What's more, the first sentence is especially important. It's best to be concise and straightforward and get to the point. The words are too gorgeous, making people sleepy. The prefecture magistrate, who felt that his first sentence was very interesting, was speechless. Shao Qingyuan, who felt that the prefecture magistrate's writing was much better than his, was speechless. Madame Dai and young Master Dai, who felt that the first sentence would definitely make the emperor happy, were speechless. This first sentence seemed to be, indeed, not concise enough. The prefecture magistrate felt that he had been dealt a blow. He took the papers and looked at them again. Suddenly, he felt bored. He was indeed a person who could listen to advice. He immediately asked humbly, then in your opinion, how should I write it? Dai Wenhua said, we're not good at writing novels. Why don't we find a scholar who's good at writing novels? Gu Yundong waved her hand. No need. I'll write it. When I'm done, you can take a look. If it doesn't work, well, find someone else to try. After all, she had read so many novels and news. This story was not long. She was good at attracting attention. All right, write it first. Madame Dai glanced at them. What are you writing? Eat first. There's still time to write after you're done. Seriously, did all of them forget that they were hungry? She hurriedly asked the servants to serve the food for the guests. Gu Yundong thought about it as she ate. The others remained silent and ate very quickly. Not long after Gu Yundong finished her meal, she took the papers into the study. No one disturbed her and let her write slowly. They continued to discuss the following process. Gu Yundong held her brush and thought for a moment. Finally, she wrote the first sentence on the paper. As we know, something big happened in the capital some time ago. Gu Yundong was not a professional writer, but at least her work was more like a storybook than the one written by the prefecture magistrate. She moved quickly. Anyway, she had prefecture magistrate Dai's sample. She changed the way she wrote slightly and adjusted the order before and after. She deleted all the nonsense that praised the emperor and left a suspense. It was done. Gu Yundong put down his pen, blew on the ink, and left the study with a few pages. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1000. Have to pick a good title. The people outside the door immediately surrounded her. Madame Dai took the few pages and was stunned. Why do I seem to be missing 2 pages? Gu Yundong nodded. I've simplified the story. Actually, she had deleted the nonsense. The prefecture magistrate was indeed worthy of being an official and a leader. He praised the emperor's great achievements and did not repeat the words of flattery. Gu Yundong really did not expect him to be such a prefecture magistrate. Madame Dai nodded and lowered her head to look. Prefecture magistrate Dai wanted to take a look at it first, but he couldn't snatch it in front of everyone. He could only endure it and take it after Madame Dai finished reading it. The more Madame Dai read it, the more she liked it and the more excited she became. After reading it, she looked at Gu Yundong with sparkling eyes. It's written too well. I still haven't had enough after reading it. It's really like reading a storybook. How could an article be as good as a storybook? Anyway, Madame Dai felt that after reading what her husband had written and then looking at Yundong's modifications, it was as if she was reading two stories. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. She asked the others, "Do you think it's okay?" Even if Shao Qingyuan didn't finish reading it, he immediately nodded. "It can't be better." Dai Wenhua laughed as well. "Sure." Only the Prefecture Magistrate Dai had a complicated look in his eyes. What she wrote was indeed more fascinating than his work. It was just that he was being too polite. Moreover, he said, "Isn't it better to add some words to praise the emperor?" The four people present could not help but roll their eyes. Madame Dai said directly, "I think this is quite good. Without those praises, the commoners will still know what the emperor has done. If you add it randomly, it will only be superfluous." Seeing that everyone else agreed, the prefecture magistrate could only sigh secretly and say, "All right, then let's use this. Wenhua, take it to the largest tea house in the prefectural city. If they do it well, they will be rewarded later. Don't worry, father. I'll take care of it." As he spoke, he took the paper and was about to leave when Gu Yundong suddenly shouted, "Wait, I remember that the storyteller in the tea house will announce the content in advance." "That's right. I'll tell the customers what I want to say 2 days in advance." Gu Yundong smiled strangely. "In that case, shouldn't we give this book a name first?" "You're right. Then what name should we give it?" Shao Qingyuan said, "About the cowpox vaccination method." The prefecture magistrate said, "The people's good days are here." Dai Wenhua said, "There's finally hope for smallpox." Madame Dai said, "As parents, we can finally rest assured." Gu Yundong, are you all serious? What kind of title was this? If it were her, she would definitely not enter the tea house to listen to a story because of this ridiculous title. Seeing her speechless expression, the four of them were stunned. Wasn't it quite in line with the content? Why did she look unsatisfied? "Yundong, do you have any good titles?" Gu Yundong took a brush and paper and wrote one on a piece of paper. The four of them stuck their heads out to take a look. Wasn't this title a little too far? Gu Yundong wrote a couple more. The few of them stuck their heads out and discussed carefully for a while before finally choosing one. After settling down the title, Gu Yundong finally heaved a sigh of relief. Dai Wenhua immediately left the Dai residence with a few pieces of paper. When he walked out of the door, he instantly felt that the things in his hand were worth thousands of gold. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1001, Shock. People in the capital are scared. The largest tea house in the prefectural city was called Fortune Tea House. This tea house had been in operation for more than 100 years and was an old brand. The owner of the tea house knew how to put in a lot of effort. Not only were the tea leaves diverse, but there were also all kinds of snacks. Previously, after Gu Yundong's new tea house opened for business, the owner of the tea house came to contact them. Gu Yundong and the others did not hide anything and had business dealings with Fortune Tea House. Apart from that, the Fortune Tea House had another specialty, which was the storyteller. The stories told by the storyteller here were very novel and especially emotional. What was even more amazing was that there were people playing drums and gongs behind the screen. Therefore, there were many people who came to the tea house because of its reputation. The guests in the tea house did not care about their status. There were private rooms upstairs for the guests who could afford to spend. The guests who were less rich could still share a table in the lobby downstairs. Therefore, the business of the tea house was exceptionally good. Sometimes, there was even a queue. Hence, even if Gu Yundong and the others opened the new tea pavilion, it did not affect their customer base. Dai Wenhua entered this building. This time, he directly conveyed the government's orders. The owner of the Fortune Tea House had to cooperate. However, after the owner saw what Dai Wenhua had brought, he was immediately interested. Even without the government's orders, he wanted to buy it. Except, young Master Dai, is this story true? Of course it's true. How can such a matter that concerns the lives of hundreds of thousands of people be fake? The owner nodded. That's right. Lord Dai has always loved the people like his son. I believe him. He was even slightly excited. He asked in a low voice, but are there really only a few hundred free spots in front? Can you leave a few for us? You've helped us so much. Of course. Dai Wenhua tried his best to suppress the smile on his face. Look, Shao Qingyuan was right. There was a limit to the number, so everyone was fighting to pre-order. Even the owner of the tea house, who was so knowledgeable, was so tempted, let alone others. However, this was inseparable from the good reputation his father had left behind after being an official for many years. Dai Wenhua believed that their plan would be launched soon. The owner immediately smiled. Thank you, young Master Dai. Dai Wenhua cupped his hands and left quickly. As soon as they left, the owner quickly found the storyteller and asked him to memorize the contents of these few pages. When the time came, he would definitely finish speaking without missing a word. Seeing that his boss valued it so much, the storyteller hurriedly took the few pieces of paper carefully. He asked the boss to let him stay in the private room and not leak this information. Then, he went out and wrote a line of words on a sign. Then, he hung it outside the door. Outside the door was the title of the story. As soon as the boss left, someone walked over to take a look. What did you say in the last 2 days? Is it the story about the scholar and the fox demon? I missed the ending yesterday. Are you still going to say the ending? I want to hear about General Wang's war. Don't argue, don't argue. Let me see. In the end, the person narrowed his eyes and looked at the headline, shock. Everyone in the capital was terrified when they found out. Everyone was speechless. Huh? What is it? The story this time seems very different. It's such a serious matter. The people in the capital are actually frightened. Wait, why do we have to wait for 6 days? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1002, an incredible event. The contents of the story soon attracted everyone's attention in the tea house. The title was too captivating. Someone even looked for the boss to ask if he had any important news from Beijing. The boss smiled without saying anything. He only said, "Won't you know when you come to listen in 2 days? Then tell us more about the story." The boss shook his head and ran away when no one was paying attention. This matter was quickly spread. After all, what happened in the capital was the bellwether of the entire Dajiang dynasty. Everyone was especially interested in what happened in the capital. Now, they actually said that everyone in the capital was frightened. What about them? Wouldn't they have to be scared to death? Dai Wenhua came back after asking around outside and said excitedly, "Many people are talking about this on the streets now. Miss Gu is indeed amazing to give it such a title." Gu Yundong chuckled. Actually, this was not her title at all. What she had originally written was, shocking. The emperor actually did such a thing. Go to. Coit was unbelievable. Why would the prince make such a life and death decision? This looked like a royal secret. It was more eye-catching, right? However, when the Prefecture Magistrate saw this, he almost shook his head off and refused to use this. He said that this was a great disrespect to the emperor. If he made a mistake later, he would be investigated and punished. Gu Yundong had no choice but to settle for second best and take another one. Although the effect seemed to be alright, she still felt a little regretful. As for why the storyteller had to wait 6 days before he started, it was naturally to leave enough time for Shao Qingyuan and the others to make other preparations. Of course, it could also let the matter continue to ferment. Since there were no more problems about the storytelling in the tea house, the Prefecture Magistrate began to gather the doctors in the prefectural city. It was definitely impossible for Shao Qingyuan to inoculate the citizens of the entire Xuanhe prefecture with cowpox vaccination. He had to tell the doctors how to operate first, and everyone had to work together. However, as Shao Qingyuan had said, no matter if it was a doctor or a commoner, they had to be sought after. In order to avoid unnecessary doubts and trouble, the Prefecture Magistrate released a piece of news. There was finally a solution to a certain incurable disease. The Imperial physicians of the Imperial Hospital planned to choose a portion of talented doctors and teach them this method. If there were any doctors who were interested, they could report to the prefectural city's government office in the near future. The government office would choose 10 suitable people. Yes, there were only 10 spots. First come, first served. As soon as this news came out, the doctors from the various medical centers in the prefecture capital were the first to report to the government office. The prefecture magistrate registered all the names. However, he was also afraid that all the doctors would come and cause the medical centers in the city to be empty. The patients would not be able to seek a doctor, so he limited the conditions. For example, there could only be 2 people participating from each clinic. This restriction made these doctors even more tempted and eager. 6 days later, the doctors had already gathered. Even many doctors from the various county cities below had arrived. The prefecture magistrate tidied up a few courtyards and rooms behind the government office and let everyone stay there. Shao Qingyuan officially began his lesson. At the same time, the storyteller of the fortune tea house suddenly slammed the wood and the gong and drum behind the screen sounded heavily. Then, they began to talk. As we know, something big happened in the capital some time ago. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1003, This person is handsome and cool. The fortune tea house was filled with people. The private rooms upstairs were all full, and the lobby downstairs was filled with people sitting or standing. Even the windowsill at the door was filled with people. Everyone was listening to the story. It was really because the publicity this time was especially awesome. It was not only because of the shocking title, but also because Prefecture Magistrate Dai had gotten someone to secretly promote it. Hence, Fortune Tea House had an unprecedented number of customers today. The storyteller was inexplicably a little nervous, but he was experienced and quickly immersed in the story. By the way, at the end of last year, a person suddenly came to the capital. This person is young and handsome. Most importantly, he has good skills. The storyteller said mysteriously, this person is travel-worn and exhausted. After arriving in the capital, he immediately went to the residence of Imperial Physician Song, the head of the Imperial Hospital. He used all his strength to knock on Imperial Physician Song's door and fainted. Everyone, guess why this person ran to Imperial Physician Song's house? Someone immediately guessed, why else? Of course it's because he has an incurable disease and asked Imperial Physician Song to treat him. No. The storyteller shook his head. Could it be that Imperial Physician Song's relative was in trouble and wanted his help? The storyteller still shook his head. No. He kept Imperial Physician Song in suspense and quickly solved the mystery. He looked for Imperial Physician Song because he had a secret medical prescription and wanted to hand it to Imperial Physician Song. Unfortunately, he shook his head, and everyone immediately straightened up. Unfortunately what? Could it be that he didn't wake up after fainting? Go upstairs. Gu Yundong could not help but twitch his lips. Why are you so black-hearted? Can't you expect something good from them? The storyteller slapped the wood again and shook his head. It's a pity that for a nameless commoner didn't have a visiting card or recommendation. How difficult was it to meet the head of the Imperial Hospital? The gatekeeper didn't allow anyone to enter at all. This person was chased out before he even saw Imperial Physician Song. However, he didn't give up. This medical prescription concerned thousands of commoners. Only by handing it to Imperial Physician Song could it be handed to the emperor. Only then could it be announced to the world so that no families in the world would be destroyed because of the illness. Hence, he dragged his exhausted body and guarded Imperial Physician Song's residence, thinking that he would definitely be able to see him when the sky turned dark. However, what he didn't know was that Imperial Physician Song happened to go out to gather herbs and wouldn't come back at all today. Everyone, think about it. It's December. It's so cold in the capital. He endured all the cold and waited outside for 3 days and 3 nights before Imperial Physician Song finally returned. When Imperial Physician Song saw his pale face and stiff body suddenly appear, he was shocked. Fortunately, Imperial Physician Song was benevolent. Seeing that he was trembling from the cold, he quickly got someone to bring the man back into the residence and let him eat something and drink hot water. Only then did he slowly recover. Who knew that this person's body would warm up and he could finally speak fluently? He immediately grabbed Imperial Physician Song's hand and said impatiently and excitedly, "Imperial Physician Song, the illness that has been troubling us for thousands of years can finally be resolved. We've finally found a way to prevent smallpox. In the future, we won't let anyone die from smallpox." What? Whether it was upstairs or downstairs, all the guests in the tea house could not help but stand up and widen their eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1004, Willing to go to the 18th level of hell. What illness did you just say? Smallpox. Some people were so excited that they wanted to rush forward. Fortunately, the waiter was smart and quickly stopped them. Everyone, calm down. Wait for the storyteller to finish speaking. A distinguished guest upstairs questioned, "How is that possible? Since ancient times, no one has ever found a way to treat smallpox." "You're bragging." The storyteller smiled. "This gentleman is right." Imperial Physician Song didn't believe it either. Wasn't this nonsense? How could you treat such a life and death matter just like that? Impossible. Imperial Physician Song was angry. Imperial Physician Song was furious. Imperial Physician Song wanted to chase this person out. But this person firmly swore that if he said anything false, he would go to the 18th level of hell and be dismembered by 5 horses. He would be cut into 1,000 pieces and never reincarnate. Upstairs, Gu Yundong was speechless. Did she write such a sentence? Could you not add it randomly? However, the storyteller became more and more excited as he spoke. His face turned red, and he slapped the wood in his hand. The entire Fortune Tea House fell silent. Everyone was so shocked by this oath that they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. How ruthless was this? He had sworn such a heavy oath to himself. Imperial Physician Song was shocked. When he saw how confident this person was, he thought that if what the man said was true, wouldn't it benefit the people? No one would wait for death because of smallpox anymore. How shocking would this be for the people of the world? He spoke passionately, and the people below also felt their blood boil. Go to. The storyteller paused and lowered his voice. Therefore, Imperial Physician Song was skeptical and patiently listened to him talk about the medical prescription. Unexpectedly, the more he listened, the more excited he became. The more he listened, the more he acknowledged the medical prescription. He immediately clapped his hands and cheered 3 times. However, as the head of the Imperial Hospital, Imperial Physician Song did not see the effect of this prescription with his own eyes. Naturally, he would not announce it to the world. He had to be responsible to the world. Hence, he pushed everything aside and focused on experimenting with this prescription. He even applied for leave from the emperor. A month later, Imperial Physician Song came out of the residence with a tired expression. However, his eyes emitted a light that was so hot that it could burn people. He entered the royal palace overnight and reported to the current emperor immediately. The storyteller cupped his hands towards the east. Everyone knows that His Majesty is wise. Ever since His Majesty ascended to the throne, he has been working hard to rule. He is wise and mighty, and he loves the people like his children. He can be said to be an emperor for thousands of years. He sent disaster relief in Yongning Prefecture, and he killed corrupt officials Wanqing Prefecture. Just take our Xuanhe Prefecture for example. The thieves on the mountain were also captured by the soldiers of the emperor. Only then can we commoners have our current good lives, right? Yes. This was true. The current emperor had only ascended the throne not long ago, but everything he did was for the sake of the common people to have a better life. The storyteller was satisfied. Therefore, although His Majesty was woken up in the middle of the night, when he heard that Imperial physician Song had brought over a medical prescription that could prevent smallpox, he immediately lost all his anger. He was extremely excited and filled with anticipation as he discussed with Imperial physician Song until midnight. The next day, His Majesty even personally left the royal palace to verify the results. Seeing that the medical prescription was really useful, the emperor was overjoyed. He waved his sleeve on the spot and gave the medical prescription a name, Cowpox Vaccination Method. The meaning is very simple. It means that those who are infected with cowpox will never be infected with smallpox again. Everyone was stunned. Cowpox infection? Are you serious? Someone asked softly. The storyteller said loudly, good question. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1005. Everyone in the capital is scared. After the emperor announced the cowpox vaccination method, everyone was questioning if this vaccination method was really useful. Is it true? If it's fake, won't they lose their lives? The storyteller continued, even though the emperor repeatedly guaranteed that there was no problem, and more than 30 to 40 people had already been vaccinated with cowpox, and the emperor had seen it with his own eyes, many people still had doubts. The emperor was anxious. What should he do? This kind of thing that benefits the people is originally a great thing, but no one is willing to try it. Wouldn't it be a waste of such a good medical prescription? Every year, people who get smallpox would still die in batches. The emperor's heart was bleeding. These are his people. He wants to save everyone's lives. The storyteller screamed at the top of his lungs. Some people below had already begun to wipe their tears. The emperor really loved his people like his children. The emperor is a benevolent ruler. Although he was anxious, he didn't want to force others to take the vaccine. But was this the only way? There's no progress at all. At this moment, the 11-year-old second prince knelt solemnly in front of the emperor and said with a firm expression, Father, I'm willing to give it a try. I haven't had smallpox yet, so I can take the vaccine. When the time comes, Father will invite all the officials and commoners to witness it with their own eyes. They will definitely believe you. Everyone was stunned. The second prince? The second prince was actually willing to be a test subject? Wasn't this too bold? Wasn't he afraid of failure? The storyteller was shocked. Everyone, you didn't hear wrongly. The second prince really wanted to test it himself. The first prince had had smallpox before. Even if he wanted to help, there was nothing he could do. However, the second prince never had it. If he wanted to test it, he must be gambling with his life. Once this shocking action spread, everyone in the capital was terrified. Very good, it was time to ask the questions. Upstairs, Gu Yundong nodded slightly and took a sip of water. She did not randomly pick a title, right? How appropriate. Go to. The guests in the tea house widened their eyes. But wasn't that so? Not to mention the people in the capital, they were also frightened when they heard that. That was a prince, and the second prince was the son of the first wife. How noble was his status? He was actually willing to be vaccinated with cowpox. The storyteller took a sip of tea. He had been too excited just now, and his throat was a little smoky. Someone below could not help but hold his breath and ask carefully, what happened after that? Did the emperor agree? The storyteller pointed at him. Good question. Everyone was paying attention to this matter. In less than a day, it shocked the court. None of the officials in the capital agreed. They all submitted reports to plead with the emperor to dispel the second prince's thoughts. There was even a loyal and patriotic minister who brought his son into the palace, and asked him to replace the second prince with this cowpox vaccination method. Guess what the emperor said? The storyteller paused. Before anyone could speak, he continued, the emperor said, my son is a prince. He is respected by tens of thousands of people and praised by the world. He enjoys power and doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. Then, it's only right for him to do something for the people of the world. For the sake of the people of the world, I agree with him to personally test the cowpox vaccination method. You don't have to persuade me anymore. This matter is settled. Everyone present sucked in a sharp breath. His Majesty agreed just like that? The Emperor has blessed the world. It's the blessing of the people to have such a wise ruler. It's the blessing of the world. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1006, Too Effective. Many people were grateful. They knelt down and shouted, "Long live the Emperor! Long live the Emperor!" Gu Yundong was speechless. This was too effective. Fortunately, Prefecture Magistrate Dai did not use the entire page of praise. Otherwise, these people would probably kneel while listening to the entire story. After everyone expressed their gratitude, the storyteller continued, "Everyone, for the sake of the world and to make the smallpox disappear completely and not let the common people lose their lives because of this illness, the Emperor has really put in a lot of effort." Then what happened to the second prince? Someone asked anxiously. A smile instantly appeared on the storyteller's face. The cowpox vaccination method has already been confirmed by the head of the Imperial Hospital and has been approved by all the Imperial physicians. What do you think the second prince will do? He will naturally be safe and healthy. Moreover, from now on, he won't be troubled by smallpox anymore. At that moment, the entire capital was celebrating. All the officials had personally witnessed the process of the second prince's vaccination, and they had personally seen him recover. The cowpox vaccination method was indeed a major invention. The exciting moment had arrived, and all the officials cheered for the heavens to bless our empire. The storyteller's saliva flew everywhere, and his entire body trembled. Everyone witnessed the effectiveness of the cowpox vaccination method. After the second prince, Prince Ning, Princeton, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Justice, and the others all submitted a plea. They wanted their sons to follow in the second prince's footsteps and be vaccinated to prevent smallpox. His Majesty agreed immediately. Unfortunately, everyone was stunned. What was a pity? Didn't they say that it was effective? The storyteller shook his head again. Unfortunately, the number of Imperial physicians was limited. Other than the person who invented the cowpox vaccination method, only Imperial physician Song knew this vaccination method. Go to Ko, the Emperor was extremely worried. He asked this person and Imperial physician Song to immediately give this medical prescription to all the Imperial physicians and let everyone in the capital be vaccinated as soon as possible. You have to know that in our vast country, countless people die of smallpox every day. The earlier they are vaccinated, the earlier they can prevent it and feel at ease. However, other than the capital, there are still millions of people in the world that the Emperor has to care about. What should we do? There are only so many Imperial physicians, and our manpower is really limited. If we wait until everyone in the capital is vaccinated, who knows when it will be our Xuanhe Prefecture's turn? Ah! The people below exclaimed. Didn't that mean that many people on their side would die from smallpox? The storyteller shook his head and sighed. Sigh, there's nothing we can do. Our prefectural city is too far away. After the vaccination, there's still Linzhou Prefecture, Wanqing Prefecture, and Yongning Prefecture, someone hurriedly said. Then can we ask the Prefecture Magistrate to send a letter and beg the Emperor to send us an Imperial physician so that we can be vaccinated? That's right, that's right. My first 2 children died of smallpox. Now that I finally have a third son, I'm on tenterhooks all day, afraid that he won't be able to survive this illness. Now that we finally have a solution, I don't want to miss it. That's right. I have an older brother who also died of this illness. My parents suffered a setback and haven't recovered until now. Gu Yindong listened quietly from the second floor. Some of them should be hired to talk here, right? The storyteller spread his hands. There's nothing I can do. I'm just a storyteller. I can only tell everyone about this joyous matter. I don't know anything about treating illnesses. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of people suddenly walked over. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1007. The subtext is very obvious. Someone with sharp eyes saw the person in front clearly and immediately shouted, "It's young Master Dai." That's young Master Dai. The people in the tea house turned their heads. The people at the door were close. They quickly ran to Dai Wenhua and blocked his way. Dai Wenhua was confused. He looked at the commoners who had suddenly appeared in surprise and took 2 steps back. What's the matter? Gu Yindong could not see clearly from the second floor, but he knew that Dai Wenhua had followed their plan and led his men past the entrance of the tea house when everyone was at a loss. Now that the way forward was blocked, the bailiffs behind Dai Wenhua immediately looked at everyone warily and separated the crowd. Someone poked his head out and asked loudly, "Young Master Dai, there's already a medical prescription in the capital to prevent smallpox. Is this true?" "That's right, young Master Dai. The second prince personally tested this medical prescription." "Is there such a thing?" "Young Master Dai, when will it be our Xuanhe Prefecture's turn to be vaccinated?" "Young Master Dai, we can't wait for a few years." Dai Wenhuo's expression changed from confusion to surprise to enlightenment. In the end, he sighed heavily, his expression rich and convincing. He nodded and said, "I didn't expect all of you to already know. This is indeed true." As he spoke, he raised his hand. Only then did everyone realize that he was holding a piece of paper in his hand. It looked like an official document. "Go to Ko," he said loudly, "this is true. Moreover, the emperor is concerned about the people. A few days ago, he has already sent official documents to the various government offices and sent an imperial physician over to teach the doctors of the various prefectures about the cowpox vaccination method. Everyone should have heard that the government offices summoned the doctors of the various medical halls a few days ago for this matter. After all the doctors learn it, they will naturally inoculate everyone." Someone in the crowd asked loudly, "Can the doctors learn it? Can the imperial physician sent by the imperial court inoculate us?" "Good. Hey, race the point." Dai Wenhua said, "The imperial physician sent by the imperial court will stay in the Xuanhe prefecture for 3 months and personally guide the local doctors to inoculate everyone. After 3 months, the imperial physicians will return to the capital. Everyone knows that the imperial physicians belong to the imperial hospital. It's already not easy for them to leave the capital and come to the Xuanhe prefecture for 3 months. Therefore, if everyone is worried, try your best to come to the government office for inoculation within 3 months. Yes, just 3 months. If you don't hurry, you won't get a share. Don't hesitate. When the imperial physician leaves, you can only let the local doctors vaccinate you. By the way, because there are many people in the prefectural city, the number of people vaccinated every day is limited. For the time being, only 200 people are allowed to be vaccinated every day. After 200 people are vaccinated, you will have to wait for a day. Of course, you can register first and come when the time is right." Yes, not only was there a time limit, but there was also a limit to the number of people. Therefore, if you didn't sign up today, you might have to wait until 3 months later. Also, Dai Wenhua continued, "The imperial physicians sent by the emperor are free to inoculate everyone. This is the emperor's grace. However, after the imperial physicians leave, whether the doctors in the prefecture city want to charge will depend on themselves. After all, the doctors also have to make money. Yes, if they did not hurry up, not only would they not have a chance, but they would also have to spend money. They would have to think about it." The subtext was already very obvious. After Dai Wenhua finished speaking, he waved the paper in his hand and said, "This is an official document. Everyone, make way. I want to paste it at the city gate. If there's anything you don't understand, just look at it yourself. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1008. more and more people. The bailiff separated the crowd and let Dai Wenhua walk forward. The others still wanted to ask, but one of the bailiffs stayed behind and said loudly, "If you have any more questions, you can ask at the government office. Those who want to register, please go to the government office as soon as possible to find the registrar." As soon as he said this, a few people had already run away. Seeing this, the others couldn't care less. Afraid that they would fall behind, they hurriedly followed. As expected, there was already a registrar sitting at the entrance of the government office. The first person rushed to him with sweat all over his face. "Sir, is the registration for cowpox vaccination method here? I'm here for registration now. Can I be vaccinated soon?" The registrar shook his head. "Of course not. The cowpox vaccination will only begin the day after tomorrow. However, you can remember the name first." Not to mention that Qingyuan was still teaching the other doctors the cowpox vaccination method, just the cowpox liquid was not that easy to collect. The man swallowed and hesitated. Should he really register? Should he really be vaccinated? However, before he could figure it out, someone pushed him from behind. "Do you want to register or not? If you don't want to, move aside. Don't block my way." The registrar looked up at him. Good. They must have found the shill. He raised his hand and asked the person, name, address. "My name is Hidaniu. I live in the prefectural city's Hulu Alley. Not only do I have to be vaccinated, but I also have to sign up for my younger siblings. And I go to Ko." Before she could finish, she was pushed aside by the first person. "What's the hurry? I haven't said anything." That person did not argue with him. All right. Hurry up." The first person immediately mentioned 3 or 4 names. Soon, another large group of people arrived. All of them scrambled to squeeze in front of the desk. Fortunately, a bailiff ran over and asked someone to line up first. There were a lot of people. Most of them were listening to books on the first floor of Fortune Tea House. The people on the second floor all had some wealth. When they came over, they were very slow. Moreover, they were actually still a little hesitant in their hearts. They wondered if they should just let these ordinary people test it to confirm that it was safe. Therefore, even though they had come, most of them were still standing far away and had no intention of registering. Unexpectedly, a moment later, the registrar suddenly shouted, "The 200 slots for the first day are already full. Now, start registering for the second day." What? It's already the second day? Didn't only a dozen people pass in front? The registrar said loudly, "Although only a dozen or so people have gone over, everyone has reported their siblings, sons, daughters, nephews, and nieces. Every person has already reported many names, so the spots are naturally full." What? That worked? The crowd immediately became anxious. Those wealthy families who originally wanted to observe also became anxious. However, at this moment, someone shouted, "My family is in Fengkai County. Sir, can you leave a few spots for us? When my family comes, we can fill them in directly. I have to tell my uncles in the countryside." This time, it was like poking a hornet's nest. Those who were originally hesitating no longer hesitated and quickly went forward to sign up. Those who couldn't make up their minds immediately got someone to inform their families. There were also commoners who did not go to the tea house to listen to the story. When they saw that there was a long line at the entrance of the county office, they immediately came over curiously to ask about the situation. Immediately, someone explained the process to them vividly. There were more and more people. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1009, another shocking title. Everyone in Fortune Tea House had left. Only Gu Yundong was still upstairs. She slowly finished the tea and snacks on the table. After all, she had spent money. She could not waste it. She would not stop until she finished the last peanut. The storyteller downstairs was still drinking water. He was too excited and his mouth was dry. The boss walked over at this moment and patted his shoulder. Not bad, well said. The storyteller chuckled. Boss, when are we going to start the second half of the story? These people are too anxious. They've all run away before you can finish. They were too anxious for a moment and afraid that I wouldn't have a spot. I can understand. When they remember later, they will naturally ask who was the first to discover that the cowpox vaccination method can prevent smallpox. Boss, should we release the title now? Well, release it in 2 days. Yes, I'll write it first. The boss was in high spirits. The story that young Master Dai had brought was indeed extraordinary. Even the question was especially attractive. The number of guests today was several times more than before, and this story was unique. He could repeat it 2 more times tomorrow and the day after. At that time, the storytellers in the other tea houses in the prefecture would probably memorize it and spread it everywhere. However, this story was only halfway through. How to resolve the suspense left behind would depend on the fortune tea house. The customers would definitely increase crazily. When the boss thought of this, he immediately rushed to write the title. Go to. After a while, Gu Yundong finally brought Tong Shuitao downstairs. When she walked behind the boss, she couldn't help but take a look. Indeed, she saw the eye-catching headline, "Oh my God." The person who invented the cowpox vaccination method was actually him. Gu Yundong coughed quietly. Why did he feel so ashamed? She waved and quickly left with Tong Shuitao. When the carriage passed by the entrance of the government office, it was indeed crowded and bustling. The news about the cowpox vaccination method was completely popular. Everyone was discussing it. The number of registrars at the entrance of the government office had also changed from 1 to 3. The queue was very long. Gu Yundong lowered the curtain and sighed slightly. I only realize now that there are so many people in our prefectural city. Today, there aren't too many people. Many people still don't know this news. Tomorrow will probably be even more lively. Tong Shuitao steered the carriage in a different direction to avoid bumping into others. However, just as she was about to leave, she suddenly saw a familiar figure squeezing through the crowd. She hurriedly pulled the reins. Miss, is that Shao Yuan? Gu Yundong took a closer look. Wasn't that so? Shao Yuan was small and was also at the back of the queue. However, there were too many people around her. Gu Yundong saw her being pushed around a few times. Her feet seemed to have been stepped on a few times. It was so painful that her face turned pale. There were also people who spoke ill of her. If not for the fact that there were bailiffs protecting the peace, she would have been thrown out. Gu Yundong paused. She immediately got off the carriage and walked towards Shao Yuan. Shao Yuan was trying her best to poke her head out. When she saw Gu Yundong walking over, she was stunned for a moment before she quickly smiled. Sister Gu, you're also queuing up? A woman behind her immediately looked at Gu Yundong warily, as if she would interfere. Gu Yundong shook her head. I'm not here to queue. Why are you here alone? Where's your mother? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:10, Dr. Pig? At the mention of Madame Fan, Shao Yuan looked a little sad. She said in a low voice, my mother caught a cold. When I came out to buy medicine for her, I heard someone talking about the government office, so I came to line up. As she spoke, she raised her hand. Sure enough, there was a medicine bag in her hand. However, the medicine bag was a little flat from being squeezed around. Gu Yundong waved her hand. Come out first. I'll bring you back. But Shao Yuan was very hesitant. She looked at the team in front of her and the long line of people behind her. She could not move her legs. She knew about smallpox. When she was very young, she had a close playmate who had smallpox and could not be saved. Later on, her mother told her about the seriousness of smallpox. She especially hoped that there would be medicine that could cure this illness. Now that she finally had it, she did not want to miss it. Seeing this, Tong Shuitao immediately leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Miss knows that Imperial physician from the capital." "Don't worry." Shao Yuan's eyes lit up when she heard that. Only then did she come out of the team. Gu Yundong held her hand and got into the carriage. She looked at the long line and slowly exhaled. Shao Yuan had helped her before. Seeing her in such a sorry state, she naturally wouldn't sit back and do nothing. The two of them sent her home directly. Madame Fan had indeed caught a cold. Fortunately, she had recovered a lot after taking a few medicines. Seeing that Shao Yuan had not returned for a long time, she was anxious. When she saw Gu Yundong and the rest, she quickly went into the house to avoid infecting them. Source: Com, updated on. Hence, it was Shao Yuan's father who received Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong explained to him about the incident at the government office, and Shao Yuan's father immediately became excited. "It can prevent smallpox?" "Really? Then, I'll queue up and register for my Shao Yuan." Gu Yundong hurriedly stopped him. "Don't. I specially brought Shao Yuan back. There's no need to queue up. I'll get Zhu to come over later and give Shao Yuan the vaccine first." Shao Yuan's family wasn't alone. There were also the Su family, and Zhuangzi, and the others. She might as well inoculate everyone in one go so that there wouldn't be any trouble in the future. However, the person performing the vaccination was Zhu. Shao Qingyuan didn't have time at all. Speaking of which, compared to Song Dajiang, Zhu might know this vaccination technique better. After all, ever since Shao Qingyuan started exploring the cowpox vaccination method, Zhu had been learning by his side. He had even personally infected himself with cowpox, so there was no problem with his skills. Shao Yuan's father was even more grateful. "Then I'll have to trouble Dr. Zhu one." Gu Yundong was speechless. "Dr. Pig?" The corners of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. This sounded too awkward. Shouldn't Zhu and the rest change their names? What were their names in the past? She had to ask later. Gu Yundong shook her head and agreed on a time for vaccination with Shao Yuan and the rest before leaving with Tong Shuitao. Unexpectedly, when she went out, she happened to see Mother Su, who lived next door. Mother Su was slightly stunned when she saw her. Then, she went up to her excitedly. "Boss Gu, why are you here?" "I bumped into Shao Yuan on the way and brought her back." Gu Yundong nodded. "Aunt, I won't bother you anymore." "Well, leave first." With that, Gu Yundong raised her foot again. Mother Su ran up to her. "Hey, wait, Boss Gu." "Aunt, what's the matter?" I do have something to ask you. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 10-11, A Match Made in Heaven. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. "Sure, ask away." Mother Su looked left and right, looking like she was hesitating. Gu Yundong saw that it was still early, so she simply said, "Why don't we talk inside?" All right. Boss Gu, please come in." When she entered the Su family's house, Mother Su immediately poured her a glass of water. She was very enthusiastic. Gu Yundong had just drunk water at Shao Yuan's house. She simply held the cup in her hand and asked bluntly, "Aunt, if you have any difficulties, just tell me. Su Changshan and Su Qing are helping me now. I will definitely help you if I can. Then, I'll get straight to the point." Mother Su coughed lightly. Even though she was at home, she still lowered her voice and said softly, "I just want to ask Boss Gu, how's Zhuangzi's character?" "Zhuangzi?" Gu Yundong was surprised. "Aunt, why are you asking about him?" "Well, he and Changshan are both employees at Gus. The two of them have been together for a long time and have a good relationship. They've been to my house twice. I think this young man looks quite energetic and polite. He's generous and smart. I quite like him." Gu Yundong blinked. So be it. So, that's why I asked Changshan to ask around. I know that this boy is not engaged yet and his family is simple. Source. Com, updated on. Gu Yundong suddenly reacted and widened her eyes. Aunt, do you like him? Do you want him, Anne? Su Qing, Mother Su was a little embarrassed. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. I do have such thoughts. She was living a good life now. Her children had work to do, and her family was slowly starting to have savings. Now, the most worrisome thing was the marriage of his children. The eldest son was still all right. He was a man and was not shabby looking. Especially after he became a worker at Gus, there were really many matchmakers. It was just that the eldest son wanted to earn more money and live a better life before getting married. However, Su Qing was different. She had been unengaged before. In this day and age, it was not good for a woman's reputation to be unengaged. Many people did not care about the reason for the unengagement. In any case, they were immediately unhappy when they heard that the marriage had been cancelled. There were also some families who took a fancy to Su Qing, but their conditions were too poor. They were either widowers or were in poor health. Or maybe, there were too many people in the family. Those men wanted to find a diligent wife to work for as a caretaker. How could Mother Su be happy with such families? Later on, Su Qing became a female employee of New Tea Pavilion. Needless to say, there were some families with better conditions, but their character was too bad, especially when a few families actually came for Su Qing's monthly salary and asked her to hand over all her money. There were also people who despised her for showing her face in work and asked her to resign after she got married to avoid embarrassing herself. However, they turned around and said that she could let others do this work. After all, there were also older women working in the kitchen in New Tea Pavilion. Mother Su almost fainted when she heard that. These people had a good plan. Because of this, Mother Su was a little disheartened. Until she met Xuanhe. This young man had a sweet mouth and upright face. He also had a job. His family was simple, and his sister was also a female employee of New Tea Pavilion. He definitely wouldn't mind a woman working outside. The more Mother Su looked at him, the more she liked him. She felt that he and her daughter were a match made in heaven. As for whether Xuanhe was from the prefectural city or the countryside, that was not important. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10-12. This bastard is Heartless. Gu Yundong was a little stunned. She had actually taken a fancy to Xuanhe? The question was, why did he come to ask her? Although she was the boss and had always been a woman of her word, she was not married yet. She was really just a girl. Gu Yundong felt wronged. Seeing that she was silent, Mother Su asked softly, Boss Gu? Is there anything wrong? Or is Xuanhe actually married in the countryside? No, he's not married. Gu Yundong hurriedly shook her head. Mother Su heaved a sigh of relief. Boss Gu, I haven't told anyone about this, not even my parents. I want to ask you first to understand what kind of person Xuanhe is. What kind of person was he? Gu Yundong thought for a moment and decided to give Mother Su a heads up. Xuanhe is indeed a good person. In the beginning, he was a worker at Gus in my county city. It was because he did a good job that I transferred him to the prefectural city. But there's something I have to make clear to Auntie first. In the past, Xuanhe was a hooligan in the village. Although he did not do anything outrageous, he did commit theft. Gu Yundong was not sure if Mother Su would mind this matter. If she did, then this matter would be over. Mother Su was indeed stunned. A hooligan? She had never thought of this, much less expected it. Source. Com, updated on. Gu Yundong did not hide anything. She also explained the reason why he was a hooligan and his changes and efforts over these days. Mother Su lowered her head and remained silent for a long time. After a while, she raised her head again and said, if that's the case, he became a hooligan for his parents and sister. Now that he's better, he's motivated now. The past is in the past. Moreover, from another perspective, he's a person who values relationships and loyalty. He cares a lot about his family and protects them in his own way. Gu Yundong was speechless. How could that be understood? Was Xuanhe really someone who valued relationships and loyalty? However, Mother Su felt that it was impossible for people to be perfect. She did not know anything about benevolence and righteousness, but a man who was good to his family was responsible. If he knew how to be filial to his parents, dote on his sister, and work hard to earn money, he would treat his wife well in the future. They were all small fries. It was enough that they could protect their small family. At this moment, Gu Yundong actually felt that Mother Su was extremely smart. But, what if Xuanhe, that bastard, focused on developing his career? He did not seem to have thought about marriage. His goal was to be a shopkeeper and reach the peak of his life. This bastard had no feelings. At the thought of this, the veins on Gu Yundong's forehead twitched. After a while, she said, since Andy thinks that Xuanhe is a good person, they'll go back and figure out his intentions. If he's interested, they'll get him to find a matchmaker to propose marriage. If he still doesn't want to get married, well, pretend that we never talked about this. What do you think? Mother Su immediately smiled and nodded. Thank you, Boss Gu. Gu Yundong waved her hand. There's no need. They're both my shop assistants. I'll be happy if something good happens to them. Just don't ask me to be a matchmaker next time, will you? She was really not good at this. Gu Yundong secretly wiped her sweat and left the Su residence with Tong Shuitao. After getting into the carriage, she collapsed inside. Tong Shuitao looked at her in surprise, paused, and asked softly, Miss, are we going to Gus to look for Xuanhe? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1013. Get used to being ugly. Gu Yundong stood up and looked outside. He shook his head and said, I'm not going. The road to Gus is blocked now. It's not easy to walk on. Besides, I haven't thought of how to ask Xuanhe. Tong Shuitao was puzzled. How else could she ask? She could just ask him if he wanted a wife and let Miss introduce one to him. However, there was indeed a crowd on the road. It was getting late, so it was better to go home first. The small courtyard was also very lively. On the street where they lived, many people were discussing this matter. The Gu family knew that the cowpox vaccination method was Shao Qingyuan's idea, but they didn't say anything. For the past few days, other than Gu Yundong, the rest of the Gu family had been obediently staying in the small courtyard. A few days ago, Shao Qingyuan had just finished inoculating Miss Gu Yunke. She was much better now. The younger siblings in the family had not had smallpox yet. Since there was a preventive method, it would definitely be used on them immediately. However, Yunshu and Yuanji were in the county city, so they inoculated Kiki first. It was just that the young lady still had marks on her body. She felt that she was too ugly and refused to come out of her room. The first thing Gu Yundong saw when she came in was that she had covered her head with red gauze. She looked like a little bride. She smiled at once. The little girl heard the sound and immediately turned her head. Sister, you're back? Where's Brother Shao? He won't be coming back today, but he told me that Miss Kiki's acne will be gone soon. Can you hold on for 2 more days? Okay. The young lady felt that she would get used to being ugly. As long as she didn't look in the mirror or the basin, she could still deceive herself. That night, Shao Qingyuan didn't return. He would probably have to stay in the government office for the next 2 days to train those doctors urgently. The entire prefectural city was just as they thought. The story of the cowpox vaccination method quickly spread in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th tea houses. More and more people knew about this method to prevent smallpox. They learned about the great actions of the current emperor and the second prince. They also knew that there was a long queue outside the government office. The number of people registered had already lined up until a month later. Most people had the mentality of following the masses. Coupled with the fact that this was an official endorsement, the imperial court would definitely not joke about such a matter of life and death. This cowpox vaccination method must be real. They had to take this opportunity to queue up. Not only did they record their names, but they also reported the names of the people close to them. The people of many villages outside the prefecture capital also heard the news and rushed over. There were even people from the nearby county cities who came to register. Seeing that there were more and more people, the prefecture magistrate began to get people to tell stories in the tea houses in the counties. However, the outcome was still slightly different. After all, it was impossible for the imperial physicians sent by the imperial court to go to every county city. Being able to stay in the prefectural city for 3 months was already the limit. Therefore, they changed the part where the imperial physician was staying in the prefectural city to that the doctors personally taught by the imperial physicians personally stayed in the county cities. The other 2 points, the limitation of numbers and the free consultation, were the same as in the prefecture capital. However, this was enough. Soon, there was a long queue outside the county office. Shao Qingyuan only returned to the small courtyard on the 3rd night. When he returned, it was already dark. Almost everyone in the Gu family had gone to rest. Only Gu Yundong was still sitting in the study reading the account book. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:14. I'll pick a good day first. Gu Yundong knew that he would definitely come back today, so she specially waited for him. Hearing the commotion outside, she immediately came out. Shao Qingyuan looked very tired. Although he had already washed up and changed into clean clothes, he was still haggard. Gu Yundong quickly pulled him to sit down. She stood behind him and massaged his shoulders. "Are you tired?" After all, he was alone, but in just a few days, he had to choose from hundreds of doctors those with good character. He also had to teach these doctors and make sure that they didn't make any mistakes and master the entire process of the cowpox vaccination method. The workload was so huge that it was very tiring. Gu Yundong was very dissatisfied with the emperor. He could have sent an imperial physician over to her prefectural city, but he insisted on letting Shao Qingyuan organize this matter. He was too black-hearted. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have spent so much time praising his achievements. "Are you feeling better?" Gu Yundong pinched his shoulder and said, "I made chicken soup tonight. I left a bowl in the kitchen to keep it warm. I'll bring it over for you now. Have some and go to bed early. I'll drink it later." Shao Qingyuan pulled her in front of him. It was late at night, so his actions were indeed much bolder. He reached out and held her on his lap, burying his head in her neck. "I'll just hug you. I haven't seen you for a few days." As he spoke, he could not help but tighten his grip. "Well, start giving everyone vaccines tomorrow. We might be even busier later." Gu Yundong felt very comfortable in his arms. She leaned against him and whispered in his ear, "It's okay. I'll visit you every day." "Really?" "Yes, really." Shao Qingyuan immediately heaved a sigh of satisfaction. "In 3 months, I will almost be able to let go. At that time, let's prepare for the wedding, okay?" "Okay." Gu Yundong raised her head slightly and looked at his slightly curled lips. She felt inexplicably happy. "Then, shall I choose a date first?" It was said that it was best to choose 3 good days for a wedding and then take them to the temple to calculate which was the most suitable through divination. Gu Yundong felt that it was time to prepare. Then, after her father finished the prefectural examination, she would show her father the 3 days. Shao Qingyuan's eyes lit up. Looking at her serious expression, his heart trembled and he kissed her fiercely. Gu Yundong almost lost her balance. She subconsciously grabbed his shoulders with both hands. Fortunately, his big hands were firmly tightening her from behind. After the kiss, Shao Qingyuan's voice was hoarse. "Choose a closer time." Gu Yundong could not help but laugh. She pushed him. "Got it. I'll bring you some chicken soup." With that, she stood up and left. When she passed by the main room, she suddenly heard Gu Dajiang sneeze heavily. Not only was Gu Yundong shocked, but Gu Dajiang himself was also shocked awake. He turned around in a daze and continued to sleep with his wife in his arms. However, he felt like he had missed something. The next day, the Xuanhe Prefecture office was filled with people early in the morning. Everyone was waiting for the door to open and for the vaccination to begin. Apart from excitement, the 200 people who registered on the first day also looked uneasy. They were also afraid. After all, they were the first batch of people. If they failed, the others would still have a chance to escape, but they could only wait for death. More than half of the 200 people regretted it. However, they had to come after registering their names and addresses. Otherwise, they would be arrested. Among them, one person was especially regretful. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:15, Seeing Shao Qingyuan. This person was shopkeeper Pan. He happened to have nothing to do that day and was listening to stories in Fortune Tea House. When he heard from young Master Dai that he could register for vaccination, he rushed to the government office without a word. He was lucky enough to finally register in the last place. He almost lost his life. However, when he really came for the vaccination today, he felt uneasy again. He was afraid that he had made the wrong decision back then. Therefore, he could not help but retreat. However, at this moment, the door of the government office opened. Two teams of bailiffs quickly ran out and asked the government office to open up a piece of land. Immediately after, Prefecture Magistrate Dai brought the private advisor and the others out. Looking at the noisy crowd outside, he immediately waved his hand and asked everyone to stop. Then, he said, "Quiet. I know that everyone still has a certain amount of doubts and distrust towards the cowpox vaccination method. I guarantee that the cowpox vaccination method is indeed a medical procedure that can prevent smallpox. It has been confirmed by all the Imperial physicians in the Imperial hospital of the current dynasty. The method was named by His Majesty and personally tested by the second prince, so everyone can rest assured. After all, he was the prefecture magistrate with a good reputation and power." When everyone present heard him say these words personally, they were instantly relieved. The prefecture magistrate continued, "Moreover, the person who came to our Xuanhe prefecture this time to guide the other doctors to learn the cowpox vaccination method is someone who has personally vaccinated the second prince." Wow, the audience was surprised, but soon became happy and excited. It was definitely not a problem if he had inoculated the second prince personally. If his medical skills were not good, the emperor would not be at ease with him personally doing it, right? The prefecture magistrate's words were like a calming pill for everyone. Seeing that the commoners looked relieved, Prefecture Magistrate Dai was satisfied. "Now, please follow Constable Wang to the Million Gold Pavilion. You will be vaccinated there." The Million Gold Pavilion was a large courtyard not far from the government office. It was once a mansion under the name of an official, but it was emptied after his house was raided. Because people said that the feng shui of this courtyard was not good and the price was not low, no one had bought it until now, so it was still owned by the government. It just so happened that there would be at least 3 months of vaccination time, and there were many commoners. It would definitely not be convenient for them to do it in the government office. After thinking about it, Prefecture Magistrate Dai got someone to clean up this Million Gold Pavilion and settle them here. As soon as he finished speaking, the private advisor had already begun to call out names. Then, Constable Wang led these people to the Million Gold Pavilion. Not only were the 200 people who were going to be vaccinated today following behind, but there were at least 1,000 people along the way. When they arrived at the Million Gold Pavilion, other than the 200 people, everyone else stopped. Then, they saw that there were already more than 100 doctors standing inside the door. Among them, there were dozens of reputable doctors in the prefecture city. Many people knew them and they were very good doctors. Seeing them, these people felt more at ease. Constable Wang quickly called out their names and led the commoners to the doctors. The rest of the people who had not had their turn waited at the side. Shopkeeper Pan had nothing to do because he was in last place. However, he still looked nervously at the people who were being vaccinated. After watching for a while, he felt uncomfortable, so he turned to look elsewhere. Then, he saw Qingyuan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:16. He's the Imperial Physician. Impossible. Qingyuan had just parted ways with Gu Yundong at the door. He did not let her enter the Million Gold Pavilion. There were people everywhere, and they were being vaccinated. The air was dirty, so it was not appropriate to bring people in. However, Gu Yundong had given him many masks before he left. She told him to change them regularly and distribute the rest to other doctors. It was more or less beneficial. After Qingyuan took the masks, he asked her to go back and do her work. After watching Gu Yundong leave with his own eyes, he turned around and entered the Million Gold Pavilion. At this moment, he was giving masks to these doctors who were preparing, so he did not have time to put one on himself. The doctors had also come into contact with the epidemic in the past. At that time, they would cover their mouths and noses with a cloth. Now that they saw what Qingyuan had brought over, they still found it very novel. The mask was really thin and dry. With 2 straps tied behind her ears, it would not fall off easily even if they ran. It was too convenient. All of them immediately thanked Qingyuan for his good intentions. After interacting with Qingyuan for the past few days, they increasingly felt that not only was this young man extremely talented in medicine, but he was also a person who did not hide anything. When they asked him about the methods of the imperial physicians in the capital to deal with illnesses, he would tell them frankly. Moreover, he was very cautious and meticulous. In the past few days, other than listening to the process of the cowpox vaccination, they had also personally gone to the death cell to take over those criminals who had committed capital crimes. At that time, Qingyuan had stood at the side and personally guided them. Therefore, everyone had experience. They were not afraid in front of these commoners at all. The masks in Qingyuan's hand were quickly distributed. The one in his hand was personally made by Gu Yundong. He took it and looked at it. A second before he put it on, Shopkeeper Pan happened to look over and saw him. Shopkeeper Pan was stunned. He was too familiar with Qingyuan. Not only had this person caused him to lose face, but he had also suffered a prison sentence. Now that his life was getting worse, even if he turned to dust, Shopkeeper Pan would still be able to recognize him. But how did this person appear here? Looking at his face, he had the same thing as the other doctors. Could he be a doctor too? But how was that possible? Shopkeeper Pan was puzzled, but he had learned from his mistakes. Instead of rushing forward, he carefully observed. Then, he realized that Qingyuan did not personally inoculate people. However, he shuttled between the doctors and guided them in the inoculation method. He looked like, it was as if he was the boss. It was as if he was the imperial physician from the capital who had specially come to the prefectural city to teach these doctors the vaccination method. How was this possible? He was just a brat from the countryside. How could he have such ability? Shopkeeper Pan's heart was filled with anger and excitement. He had to expose him. However, to be on the safe side, Shopkeeper Pan suppressed his impulse and quietly walked to the side of an old doctor who seemed to have a good temper. He pretended to be curious and asked, "Doctor, who is that young master? Is he also a doctor here? Why don't I see him helping others with vaccination?" The doctor happened to be idle. When he heard this, he looked in the direction of Shopkeeper Pan's finger and immediately smiled. "Oh, you mean young Master Shao? He's the imperial physician from the capital. He has to supervise everything. It's naturally not appropriate for him to do it himself." Him? An imperial physician from the capital? How is that possible? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:17. He wants to expose him. Shopkeeper Pan suddenly stood up. Although he already had a guess in his heart, he still shouted in shock. His voice was a little loud and instantly attracted everyone's attention in the hall. The doctor who had just answered his question was immediately displeased. What are you shouting about? Why can't young Master Shao be an imperial physician from the capital? But he, shopkeeper Pan pointed at Shao Qingyuan, but his mind was racing. He knew that Shao Qingyuan was from Fengkai County. He also knew that the guy was a poor kid from the countryside. For dozens of copper coins a day, the guy worked in his shop and let him order him around. The guy didn't even have decent clothes on him. He ate dry steamed buns and didn't have any relatives. How could someone like him be an imperial physician from the capital? This was a liar. This was clearly a liar. Yes, this person must have even hidden it from the Prefecture Magistrate. He was going to kill the entire Xuanhe Prefecture. Shopkeeper Pan was excited. He had finally found an opportunity to take revenge. Therefore, when some bailiffs thought that he was here to cause trouble and wanted to throw him out, he immediately shouted, "Let go of me. Let me tell you, he's not an imperial physician from the capital. He's a liar. Really, I've seen him before. He's just a penniless and ruthless poor boy. How can he be an imperial physician who saves the world?" Everyone present was stunned. Even the bailiff stopped moving. Shao Qingyuan looked at shopkeeper Pan with a trace of confusion in his eyes. Curious. Who was this person? Do I know him? Have I seen him? Shopkeeper Pan was even angrier when he saw his expression. Great, he still pretended not to know him. Although almost 2 years had passed, she had humiliated and bullied him back then. How could this brat not remember him? Shopkeeper Pan broke free from the constable's hand and suddenly ran in front of him. He sneered and said, "Don't pretend. Let me tell you, I definitely won't let you do anything to harm the commoners of our Xuanhe Prefecture." He spoke especially righteously. If he exposed Shao Qingyuan's true colors in front of everyone, the Prefecture Magistrate would definitely look at him in a different light. All the citizens of the Xuanhe Prefecture would be grateful that he had saved their lives. At that time, everything he had lost in the past would come back. Just thinking about it made shopkeeper Pan tremble with excitement. He asked Shao Qingyuan loudly, "Let me ask you, are you from Fengkai County? Is your name Shao Qingyuan?" "Yes, so what?" Shao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Shopkeeper Pan snorted and said to everyone, "Did everyone hear that? He's from Fengkai County. He's not an imperial physician from the capital at all. He's a liar who came to harm everyone." The people present exclaimed and stood up one after another to take a step back. The person who had just received the vaccination was about to cry. He grabbed the doctor in front of him in fear and asked him to save him. The scene became chaotic, and cries and shouts kept intertwining. Constable Wang frowned and suddenly shouted, "Quiet. Anyone who makes any more noise will be thrown out." The hall instantly fell silent, but everyone looked at Shao Qingyuan with hatred in their eyes. Shopkeeper Pan was instantly smug, but Shao Qingyuan looked at him as if he was a fool. After a while, he took out something from his pocket and asked him, "Do you know what this is? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 10:18, What Happened? Shopkeeper Pan was stunned for a moment. He blinked and craned his neck to take a look. At first, he didn't quite understand, but after a while, his expression changed. How did you get this? What do you think?" Shao Qingyuan looked at him coldly. Someone beside him could not see it clearly and did not understand. He quickly asked, "What is that?" Constable Wang explained coldly, "That's a fish talisman. All the officials in my dynasty have this to prove their identity. Young Master Shao is an imperial physician, so he naturally has one too." Fish talismans? All the imperial court's officials had them? Does that mean he's real? Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they looked at shopkeeper Pan angrily. "What's wrong with you? This is our first time getting vaccinated. You're still spouting nonsense here and making us worry." Constable Wang, I'm afraid this person has ulterior motives. Hurry up and arrest him. Shopkeeper Pan shook his head. How is that possible? How could a person enter the capital and become an imperial physician in such a short time? He grabbed the fish talisman from Shao Qingyuan's hand and looked at the words engraved on it. His name and address were all there, and they were all correct? But, Shao Qingyuan took the fish talisman. Get lost. Shopkeeper Pan subconsciously took a small step back. Constable Wang went forward and grabbed him. He sneered and said, "Do you think our lord is a muddle-headed official? This concerns the lives of millions of people. How can we hand such an important matter to him without confirming young Master Shao's identity?" Young Master Shao came from the capital and is escorted by the Imperial guards sent by the Emperor. No, there were no Imperial guards, but words had to be said beautifully. Shopkeeper Pan took 2 more steps back, feeling flustered. The others present pointed at him, making him panic. Constable Wang grabbed him and walked out. This is the Emperor's decree. You clearly have ulterior motives for doubting young Master Shao. Come, follow me to the government office. No, my lord, please spare me. I really didn't. I misunderstood. Constable Wang didn't listen and dragged him out. Tell the Prefecture Magistrate if it's a misunderstanding. Shopkeeper Pan burst into tears on the spot. He had already been to jail once and did not want to go again. His begging voice became more urgent, but it was also getting further and further away. After the voices could no longer be heard, Shao Qingyuan said to everyone, "It's all right. Continue." Everyone present now firmly believed in Shao Qingyuan. He was a true imperial physician who could take out fish talismans and could be trusted. Shao Qingyuan pinched the fish talisman in his hand and narrowed his eyes. This fish talisman was given to him by the Emperor. Since he had to take on the mission of Xuanhe Prefecture's cowpox vaccination, he had to be given some necessary things to avoid many troubles. It seemed that the Emperor's consideration was right. This fish talisman had really saved him from trouble. He walked around the hall and saw that the doctors were familiar with it. After seeing that there were no problems, he quickly left the million-gold pavilion silently from the back door. There was a carriage parked outside the back door. There were guards on both sides. When they saw Shao Qingyuan, no one stopped him. They let him walk to the carriage and jumped up. 2 people were sitting in the carriage and talking softly. When they heard the commotion, they immediately turned to look at him. What's going on with Shopkeeper Pan? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1019, Found Money? The person who spoke was Qin Wenjing, who should have stayed in the county city. Shao Qingyuan frowned and said, "It should be someone who knew me in the past. I don't remember him." The Prefecture Magistrate waved his hand. "I've already sent someone to investigate. Do you think he's the person who will sabotage the cowpox vaccination?" "It doesn't seem like it." Qin Wenjing lowered his eyes and pondered. If someone really wanted to cause trouble during this vaccination, they shouldn't have found such a person. He looks a little like a fool. Shao Qingyuan agreed with this. It's not him, but after Shopkeeper Pan's commotion, I realized that someone's behavior is very strange. Who is it? Qin Wenjing asked anxiously. The vaccination this time was too big. It was very likely that someone would make a big fuss. Especially in the Xuanhe Prefecture and Fengkai County. Qin Wenjing had stayed in Fengkai County for a few years with the Emperor's secret mission. It could be seen that Fengkai County was hiding a huge secret. Unfortunately, although they had already found out about the Tao father and son, the Tao father and son were not important figures. Qin Wenjing had to find out all the ferocious beasts hidden in the county prefectural city. Therefore, this time, other than asking Shao Qingyuan to tell Qin Wenjing about the cowpox vaccination mission, the Emperor also gave him a secret decree to pay attention to the person who secretly attacked him. Even though Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong did not want to participate in these things, But, ever since Gu Yundong handed the cowpox vaccination method to Qin Wenjing, many things were no longer under their control. Could Shao Qingyuan refuse to help the emperor? No. Therefore, even though Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan did not want to be involved in these matters, they had no choice. The only thing they could do now was to resolve the matter as soon as possible so that they could live their lives comfortably. There was a short man who was about 20 years old. He was very strange, Shao Qingyuan said. At that time, shopkeeper Pan bumped into him. He seemed to be holding something in his hand, but after he was hit, he immediately hid it in his sleeve. Qin Wenjing and Prefecture Magistrate Dai looked at each other. In that case, do we have to thank shopkeeper Pan? Shao Qingyuan, do whatever you want. He alighted from the carriage. Next was Qin Wenjing and the Prefecture Magistrate's business. The short man probably did not know that he had been exposed, so as long as Qin Wenjing sent someone to follow him, he would probably gain something. He returned to the Million Gold Pavilion and looked at the busy crowd. He sighed. He missed Yundong. At that moment, Gu Yundong had already arrived at Gus. From the moment he got off the carriage, he saw the happy and busy Xuanhe. He looked so excited that he did not even notice that Gu Yundong had come in. It was only when Su Changshan called boss that he quickly turned around. Gu Yundong sized him up from head to toe. You look energetic. Are you used to working in the prefectural city? Yes, everything is fine. Xuanhe nodded repeatedly. Gu Yundong walked to the side and sat down. Xuanhe immediately poured her a cup of tea. His footsteps were light. It seemed like he had really encountered a good thing. You picked up money? Why are you so happy? No. Xuanhe immediately shook his head. He thought for a moment and said softly, Boss, I went out of the city to see my parents yesterday. Yes, and then? He was so happy meeting his parents. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1020, Divination. Xuanhe chuckled. Then, when I came back, I met someone. He turned around and saw that Su Changshan was busy working. He lowered his voice even more. Boss, do you know what that person does? I don't know. Why are you being so mysterious? Can't you tell me everything at once? Xuanze's smile became even more wretched. That person is a fortune teller. Boss, that fortune teller said that I'm in luck this year and might be able to get what I want very soon. Boss, you know that I want to become a shopkeeper as soon as possible. I think that's what the fortune teller meant. Gu Yundong was speechless. If you want to be the shopkeeper, it doesn't seem to be up to the fortune teller, but me, right? Of course. However, when the fortune teller said that, I immediately guessed that the boss fortune was flourishing this year. You would definitely open another shop. Wouldn't I be able to become the shopkeeper then? Gu Yundong was speechless. He was trying to curry favor with her. But for some reason, she felt that it was quite pleasant to the ear. She looked at Xuanze and couldn't help but smile. Not bad. If that's the case, the fortune teller is quite accurate. Since you're going to be the shopkeeper this year, have you started to consider your marriage? Gu Yundong probed. Unexpectedly, Xuanze laughed lewdly again. Gu Yundong silently covered his eyes. Please don't smile like this when you're the shopkeeper in the future. Otherwise, the customers will be scared away by you. When Xuanze was done laughing, he said, that fortune teller actually not only calculated my fortune, but also my luck with women. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Oh. He said that my luck with women is pretty good this year. If nothing goes wrong, they'll be engaged this year. Gu Yundong was speechless. Which family was this fortune teller from? In that case, this bastard finally had a relationship line and was no longer focused on developing his career? It was good. This way, it would be more convenient for her to help Mother Su find out. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Then, have you taken a fancy to any girl? Xuanze frowned. He really didn't. He could not help but sigh. Boss, you don't know. Ever since I became a shop assistant, my ultimate goal was to become a shopkeeper. That's why I worked especially hard. Every day, I learned how to read and count from the shopkeeper. I learned so much that my mind was filled with the words on the account book. When the guest came, I didn't even have the time to see if it was a man or a woman. I first thought about what they might buy, and how much they could pay. When I returned home at night, I only ate and counted the money. I didn't have the chance to see any girl. Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Have you gone mad? Xuanhe looked pitiful. Actually, before he became the shopkeeper, he had never thought of getting a wife. If it was in the past, he would not have taken the fortune teller's words seriously. But wasn't he living with his sister and brother-in-law now? As a single man, he watched Jiang Bao and Lan Huar being clingy every day, who felt that there were only the two of them in the world. He was too agitated. Especially when he called out to them, the two of them acted as if they did not hear him. Xuanhe was so angry that he was unwilling to go home several times and lived in the backyard of this shop. Therefore, he felt that he had to start thinking about marriage. Gu Yundong could not help but roll her eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1021, I'll secretly show him. Xuanhe chuckled again. Boss, you know a lot of people. Let me see if there's a girl suitable for me. Let me think. Gu Yundong frowned and seemed to ponder carefully for a while. After a while, he suddenly looked up. There really is a very good girl. Xuanze's eyes lit up. He automatically sat down on the chair beside her and eagerly handed her a cup of tea. Really? Which girl? Boss, tell me quickly. This was Gu Yundong's first time trying to matchmake someone. She was afraid that if he did not say it well, someone would mess it up. For some reason, he was a little nervous. You've seen Su Changshan's sister, right? Xuanze blinked, then blinked again, looking confused. He has a sister? He had only seen Changshan's mother. About the sister? Yes. He vaguely heard Changshan mention that he had a younger sister in his family. However, he had never seen her before. After hearing it, he quickly threw it to the back of his mind. After all, he was a man. It was not appropriate for him to ask about girls. Gu Yundong, you've worked with him for so long, Lan Huar has worked with Su Qing for so long, and you've even been to the Su family twice. You actually don't know that Su Changshan has a sister? Gu Yundong was stunned. What was in your mind every day? Was there only money and the goal of becoming a shopkeeper? Xuanze was smart and immediately reacted. He immediately asked excitedly, the girl the boss wants to introduce to me is Changshan's sister? Yes. Gu Yundong glanced at him from the corner of her eye and said speechlessly, his sister's name is Su Qing. She's now working as a female employee at New Tea Pavilion. It can be considered that she has something in common with you. Of course. Xuanze thought of his sister and Jiang Bao. These two seemed to have endless things to talk about every day. He was instantly interested. To be able to enter New Tea Pavilion as a female worker, she must be smart and good-looking. Still, boss, this Changshan family is from the prefectural city. Although I'm now a shop assistant in the prefectural city, I'm still a country bumpkin. Would they like me? Well, this was a very realistic problem. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Mother Su has taken a fancy to you. However, she could not let him know. Otherwise, this kid's tail would be raised to the sky. She touched her chin and said, the Su family doesn't seem to care about these things, but there's something I have to tell you clearly. Xuanze saw that her expression instantly turned serious and hurriedly sat upright. Boss, tell me. You know that Su Changshan was accused of stealing, right? I know. Speaking of this, Xuanze was still a little angry. Changshan is too honest. If it were me, I would rush over and tear down their door. If you accuse me of stealing, I'll steal something for you to see. Gu Yundong covered his face. Alright, alright, alright. You're amazing. She continued, Su Qing was once engaged, but that family cancelled the engagement because Su Changshan was a stealer. They were afraid of implicating their reputation. Do you mind? Xuanhe didn't even think about it. Why would I mind? It's clearly the other party's fault. Sister Su is lucky that she didn't marry into such a family. Otherwise, her life would be ruined. Gu Yundong nodded in satisfaction. Although this kid was a little wretched, he was not a pedantic person. She raised her head and looked behind Xuanhe. Did you hear that? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1022, You don't have to be so flattery. Xuanhe was stunned. He suddenly turned around and saw Su Changshan standing behind him. Xuanhe suddenly felt a little awkward. Well, it didn't seem right to discuss his sister behind his back. But at this moment, Su Changshan also looked embarrassed. He didn't eavesdrop on purpose. When he suddenly heard his sister's name, he was a little concerned. Coincidentally, there were no customers in the shop at the moment, so he came over to see what was going on. Unexpectedly, just as he stood at the back, he heard Xuanze's words. For a moment, Su Changshan felt very complicated. However, she quickly realized that the boss was going to introduce Xuanhe to his sister. He suddenly looked up at Gu Yundong. Boss, my sister, Su Qing has a good personality and is diligent. Xuanhe is also smart and protective of his family. You've been with him for some time. What do you think? Su Changshan felt that Xuanhe was very loyal and had a good character. He was worth entrusting life to. In that case, it seemed like it was not a bad idea for his sister to marry him. Seeing that Su Changshan didn't say anything after thinking for a long time, Xuanhe was a little anxious. He immediately put his arm around Su Changshan's shoulder and said, Don't worry. I'm not good at anything else except being protective. Your sister will definitely not regret marrying me. Gu Yundong held her forehead. Wait a minute. Don't be hasty. It's not up to the two of you to decide on this matter. I think that at the very least, you have to meet Su Qing and both of you think that the other party is not bad. Only then can you sit down and talk about this marriage, right? Su Qing still didn't know about this. It was useless for them to say anything. Xuanhe hurriedly nodded. Yes, yes, yes. Boss, let's go over now. Now? The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She glanced at him. Are you going to look at her dressed like this? Xuanhe looked down. He was wearing the uniform of the shop. He had just moved the goods, and his clothes were still a little dirty. It did not seem appropriate. If he went to see her like this, she might think that he was a sloppy person who did not like cleanliness. Then, I'll get Lan Huar to make me a new set of clothes later. I'll go in 2 days. Gu Yundong nodded and looked at Su Changshan. Go back and ask Su Qing what she thinks. He paused and added, Tell her in front of your mother. I understand, boss. Gu Yundong glanced at Xuanhe, who hurriedly said, My parents are fine. They said that as long as I'm willing, they'll come and propose marriage later. Gu Yundong did not say anything else. They agreed to meet the shop. At that time, Su Qing could take the opportunity to visit Su Changshan and talk to Xuanhe. If both parties were satisfied, Gu Yundong would not have anything to do after that. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, it was too difficult to be a matchmaker. She stood up. All right, continue working. I'll go to the pharmacy to take a look. Xuanhe hurriedly sent her out. Boss, take care. Be careful of these steps. Don't splash water on the ground. Gu Yundong was speechless. She shook her body violently. Did he have to be so obsequious? Tong Shuetao could not take it anymore. She quickened her pace and followed Gu Yundong. The pharmacy was not far away. The two of them turned 2 alleys and arrived. As soon as she entered, Jiang Bao happened to be standing behind the counter, pounding the medicine carefully. As for Ah Zhu, he was tidying up the medicine cabinet. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1023, Name change. The two of them stopped when they saw Gu Yundong enter. Miss, why are you here? Gu Yundong was about to speak when she saw Ah Go and Ah Shu walk out of the backyard. Ah Mao was not around and was at the Million Gold Pavilion with Shao Qingyuan. Dr. Xiong wasn't around either. A medical fanatic like him was naturally the most passionate about learning cowpox vaccination. Therefore, at this moment, he was among the hundreds of doctors who were vaccinating people. However, when he was not around, the business of the pharmacy was exceptionally good. It was probably because the vaccination was about to take place in the entire city. There were still some people who were not at ease and secretly came to the medicine shop to buy medicine. If the vaccination failed, at least there would be a way out, right? Therefore, when Dr. Xiong was not around, Go and Ah Shu came to help. Miss, are you looking for us? Why don't you go to the backyard and rest first? No, thank you. Gu Yundong shook her head. I'm just looking for Ah. She stopped mid-sentence. She recalled how Xiao Yuan's father had addressed the guy. Dr. Pig? She suddenly couldn't call Ah Zhu's name. She paused and could only point at him, who was coming down the wooden ladder after closing the medicine cabinet. She said, "Come down first. I have something to ask you." Ah Zhu was confused and hurriedly walked over. What's the matter? Gu Yundong glanced at Ah Go and Ah Shu again and asked with a frown, what were your original names? The three of them looked at each other. Miss, why are you suddenly asking this? I'm just thinking that you're not young anymore. In 2 to 3 years, you'll have to get married. In the future, when you walk around outside, you can't let people continue to call you Ah Zhu, Ah Go, Ah Shu, and Ah Mao. People will think that they've entered the zoo. Why don't you change to your previous names? The three of them were stunned and paused, but they fell silent. Gu Yundong was a little surprised. Of course, it's okay if you don't want to change. I'm just making a suggestion. No, miss, it's not that we don't want to change. It's just that, Ah Zhu hesitated for a moment before denying softly. Jiang Bao listened from the side and immediately said, I think it's good to change your names. 2 days ago, there were customers who came in to buy medicine. They directly called Ah Zhu Mr. Pig. Gu Yundong was speechless. It turned out that Xiao Yuan's father was not the only one who called him Dr. Pig. Ah Zhu glared at Jiang Bao, who raised his eyebrows smugly. After a long time, Shu, who was the oldest among the three, said, Miss, we actually want to change our names, but we don't want to change back to our previous names. If possible, can you tell the boss to let us have the surname Shao? Why? Gu Yundong was surprised. Ah Shu smiled bitterly and said, we're all orphans without parents. When the 4 of us lived together, we agreed to be brothers and relatives. That's why we randomly named Ah Mao, Ah Shu, Ah Zhu, and Ah Go. We felt that this was more intimate, as if we were a family. If we switched to our original names with different surnames, we would feel that we had become orphans again. Gu Yundong was shocked. She did not expect them to think that way. She immediately regretted her suggestion. Although names didn't mean anything, the meaning was completely different for Ah Zhu and the others. Jiang Bao also stopped pounding the medicine. His expression became more serious and he did not speak anymore. Gu Yundong opened her mouth and was about to say that it was fine when she heard Ah Go speak in embarrassment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1024, I want to be surnamed Shao, Miss. Actually, we're following Young Master now. Young Master treats us as his family. Previously, we've also thought about whether we can follow Young Master's surname. We're just afraid that we'll climb up young master's social ladder. They used to have parents and brothers, and they even had a good relationship. However, ever since their parents were gone, it was as if they were the only ones left in the world. What family, clansmen, and friends? Other than hitting them when they were down, who had reached out to them? The four of them only had each other. They were each other's family and friends. It was only when they met Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong that they gradually felt a sense of belonging. However, they had never thought of changing back to their original names. They even vaguely rejected it. Gu Yundong understood and immediately smiled. What does it matter? I'll make the decision. Your surname will be Shao. However, you can think about your names yourself. We'll confirm it later when Brother Shao is free. The three of them were instantly happy. There was a hint of excitement on their faces. Really? Yes. Gu Yundong nodded heavily. Actually, before Shao Qingyuan met her, wasn't he also alone? This was quite good. Jiang Bao was also happy for them. Seeing that the atmosphere was good, he immediately waved his hand and said, I'm here to give you names. Let me tell you, my name was changed by myself when I was 10 years old. It sounds good, right? The three of them were speechless. No, they refused. Seeing that the matter was settled, Gu Yundong began to talk about serious matters. I came here today to look for Zhu. I want him to go to Xingtao Street to help Shao Yuan and the others get vaccinated first. Zhu was immediately interested. Sure, no problem. I'm better at vaccinating than those doctors from the Million Gold Pavilion today. I'll go now. After saying that, he turned around and ran into the house to get his first aid kit. Gu Yundong was afraid that Shao Yuan's family was not familiar with them, so he asked Tong Shui Tao to accompany them. She went back to the small courtyard first. 2 days later, Zhuangzi went to the shop in a neat set of new clothes. At noon, Su Qing came to deliver food to Su Changshan before the two of them met. Gu Yundong did not know what exactly they had talked about, but the next day, Zhuangzi ran to his parents and went to the Su family to propose marriage. Gu Yundong was invited as a witness. Zhuangzi and Su Qing's marriage was decided in just a few days. The cowpox vaccination in the Million Gold Pavilion was also in full swing. The news of shopkeeper Pan's commotion that day still spread. Many people knew that the Imperial physician sent by the capital was from Fengkai County. However, they were not sure if it was true or not. At this moment, a new title was hung outside the door of Fortune Tea House. Everyone pointed at the title and discussed animatedly. Some people couldn't wait to ask the boss for an answer. The news of cowpox vaccination had already spread throughout the prefectural city. Almost everyone knew about it. Therefore, there were twice as many customers in Fortune Tea House as last time. Shao Qingyuan hadn't returned for a few days. The Million Gold Pavilion had a place for him to stay in. Those who had finished receiving the vaccination couldn't leave for the time being. They had to stay in the Million Gold Pavilion for a few days. As an attending physician, Shao Qingyuan naturally had to deal with unexpected situations at any time. Fortunately, Shao Qingyuan had seen the traces of the person who wanted to cause trouble that day. Now that Qin Wenjing had found out, the subsequent vaccinations were very peaceful. However, on this day, 7 or 8 people suddenly came to look for Gu Yundong outside the city. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1025. Various versions of rumors. Just as the Gu family was about to eat dinner, there was a knock on the door of the small courtyard. Lu Sheng was busy. Gu Dafeng went to open the door and was stunned when she saw the people outside. Why are you here? When Gu Yundong heard the sound, she quickly got up and walked out. She was also surprised to see the person at the door. Uncle Chen? It was the village chief of Yongfu village, Chen Liang. Behind him were the other villagers. There were men and women. Including Chen Liang, there were a total of 8 people. Coupled with Chen Jinbao, who had brought them here, the front of the courtyard was filled with people. The group of people looked travel-worn. Gu Yundong quickly stepped aside. Have you just arrived at the prefectural city? Come in first. We can talk later. Chen Liang wiped his face. Alright, sorry to disturb you. Gu Yundong led the group into the central room. Gu Dajiang also came out and poured them sugar water. The group of people took a big sip. Their entire bodies were warm before they slowly exhaled. After catching his breath, Chen Liang said, Brother Gu, Yundong, we didn't mean to disturb you at this time. There are really some things that we're very anxious about and we want to clarify. Gu Yundong and Gu Dajiang looked at each other. Just ask. We heard that the capital has already found a way to resolve the smallpox. Now, the Imperial physician is doing vaccination for everyone in the prefectural city. What kind of vaccination is that? Also, the Imperial physician isn't going to the county city, right? Gu Yundong was stunned. She did not expect them to ask about this. Before she could answer, another villager beside her asked impatiently, That's right, Yundong. The Imperial physician only treats people in the prefectural city and doesn't care about the county city? Wouldn't our village have even less chances? Now, the entire Fengkai County knows about this. They said that the vaccination will end in 3 months. That won't do. If they don't care about us in 3 months, won't we only be waiting for death? Why won't they vaccinate us? We heard that we have to go to the government office to register first, but we've asked. The number of people registered in the government office has long exceeded 3 months. We don't have a share at all. As soon as Chen Liang spoke, the people behind started talking at once. Among the people who came this time, other than Chen Liang, there was also the 6th grandfather's grandson, as well as those who had a good reputation in the village and could speak. The few women were also smart and capable. It seemed that everyone attached great importance to this vaccination. However, as the news spread, there were all kinds of versions. Clearly, everyone only knew a little. There was nothing they could do about it. Although the storyteller in the county city had explained the matter clearly, not everyone would go to the tea houses to listen. This caused everyone to hear different parts of the story. Still, Gu Yundong could not help but look at Chen Jinbao. Chen Jinbao was going back and forth between the prefectural city and Yongfu village to deliver goods. He should know about the prefectural city. Why did he not explain it clearly? Chen Jinbao touched his nose and laughed dryly. He didn't know how to explain. On the other hand, Chen Liang glared at him and said to Gu Yundong, We thought that this kid had stayed in the prefectural city for a long time and should know clearly, but we didn't expect him to know nothing. Or maybe, he's simply muddle-headed and is becoming more and more unclear. I was afraid that he would delay the matter, so I went to the prefectural city to ask around. However, he was unfamiliar with the prefectural city. When he arrived, he subconsciously came to look for the Gu family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1026, It'll bring you to listen to stories. Chen Jinbao sighed secretly. It wasn't that he couldn't explain it clearly, but there were some things that he couldn't say. He knew about the cowpox vaccination method, but what shocked him was that Shao Qingyuan was actually the Imperial physician from the capital. He could not tell his parents about this at all. After all, he had to keep this a secret from the beginning. What if he said it and ruined the Prefecture Magistrate's plans? Therefore, when Chen Liang asked, he only said that everyone in Yongfu village would be vaccinated and told him not to worry. When Chen Liang asked him why he was so sure, Chen Jinbao couldn't tell him the reason. After a few times, Chen Liang did not believe him and insisted on coming over personally to take a look. He was a responsible village chief. It didn't matter if he didn't get the vaccination, but there were so many people in the village. He was the village chief. Who would stand up for such a big matter if he didn't? He had to learn everything. Gu Dajiang was very emotional when he heard that. He patted his shoulder and said, Don't worry, it's not as serious as you think. The method to prevent smallpox is true, and the emperor sent people to the prefectural city to inoculate people. However, it's definitely not just the prefectural city. The county cities, towns, and villages won't fall behind. Chen Liang's eyes lit up. Really? Gu Yundong replied, of course it's true. If Uncle Chen doesn't believe me, there's a very popular storytelling show tomorrow at Fortune Tea House. I've reserved a table. I'll bring you to listen to it then. How about that? Chen Liang was stunned and quickly shook his head. How can I have the mood to listen to other people's stories at a time like this? The others present were interested. The storytelling shows in the prefectural city were very exciting. It was rare for them to come, so they had to take a look and listen. They originally wanted to find out more and buy something to bring back before telling others about the flourishing scenery in the prefectural city. However, after hearing Chen Liang's words, they could only lower their heads in disappointment and not express their opinions. Gu Yundong smiled and said, Uncle Chen, don't be in a hurry to refuse. Didn't you say that you don't understand the cowpox vaccination method or if Yongfu village will be included? Go and listen tomorrow and you'll understand everything. Is that so? He could understand just because he heard about it. He couldn't help but look at Gu Dajiang, who nodded. Listen to Yundong. That's right. His unfathomable look calmed Chen Liang down a little. He knew that Yundong was much more reliable than his son. That's fine. Chen Liang stood up. Sorry to disturb you today. Well, leave first. I'll go with you to Fortune Tea House tomorrow. Gu Yundong hurriedly asked, it's already so late. You haven't eaten yet, right? I'll get the kitchen to prepare a few more dishes. You can leave after eating. We've already brought some dry food. We've already eaten on the way. There's no need to trouble you. Go ahead and do your work. There's no need to send us off. Chen Liang was also very embarrassed to have come just in time for dinner. However, he had no choice. He was not the only one who could not wait. The others were the same, especially when they passed by the government office. They realized that there were many people waiting outside in the middle of the night. Then where are you staying at night? Gu Dajiang asked. Chen Liang said, when we entered the city, we happened to meet Feng Danning and asked him to help book 2 large bunks in the inn. There's a place to stay. Feng Danning's business was very good now. When he came to the prefectural city last year, he also brought his wife and children over. Now that he had rented a small courtyard in the prefectural city, his days were getting better. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1027, Villagers. However, just as they finished speaking, there was a knock on the courtyard door. Feng Danning, who had just been mentioned, walked in with an ashamed expression and said to Chen Liang, Village Chief, I'm sorry. Chen Liang was stunned. What's wrong? The large bunks are all gone. He asked many inns, but they all said that there were no more rooms. Not only were there no more large bunks, but there were also no more upper rooms or ordinary rooms. Chen Liang was surprised. There's no room in such a huge prefectural city. This was not the time of famine. Why? Gu Yundong had thought of it just now, but before she could say anything, Feng Danning returned. Looking at the anxious expressions of Chen Liang and the others, she said, the prefectural city is currently doing cowpox vaccination, so many commoners came after hearing the news. Not only are there no more large bunks, but I'm afraid many of the courtyards that can be rented out are also gone. This was inevitable. There were many county cities under the Xuanhe Prefecture. Those who heard the news would definitely rush to the prefectural city to verify if the news was true. In particular, there were some wealthy families with many servants and guards. Most of these people lived in large bunks. Chen Liang and the others arrived a little late, so there were naturally no rooms. Then what should we do? Why don't we squeeze in dilapidated temples for the night? Someone suggested. There were also people who glanced at the Gu family's small courtyard, but they were soon disappointed. This place was too small, and there were so many people in the Gu family. It was better not to think about it. They were all from Yongfu village and had a good relationship with the Gu family. Gu Yundong would definitely not let them stay in a dilapidated temple. That would be too demeaning. Uncle Chen, Brother Shao, and I have a courtyard at the back of our shops. There are still a few empty rooms now. If you don't mind, you can squeeze in first. There were originally 3 rooms in the backyard of Gus. Zhenggang was the shopkeeper and stayed in one. He had also prepared a room for Zhuangzi previously, but he, Jiang Bao, and the others rented a small courtyard outside. They only stayed for the night occasionally when they were on duty, so there were only simple bedding. The other one was prepared for Qingyuan Bao and the others. It was relatively large. The backyard of Shao Qingyuan's pharmacy was bigger. Now, Zhu and the others were living there. There were also 2 empty rooms. There were 4 rooms, so there was no problem with 9 people living there. Chen Liang still felt a little apologetic. Isn't this too troublesome? We're from the same village. We should help each other. Uncle Chen, you've helped me a lot in the past. These are all small matters. The matter was settled. Chen Jinbao knew the location of the shop and Gu Yundong let him bring it over. This was the first time they had seen Gu Yundong's shop in the prefectural city. They looked at Gus, which was much bigger than the county city shop, and their eyes flashed with surprise. In the end, it was decided that the 3 women would stay in the empty room at Gus. The 3 of them would share a room. Chen Jinbao and Chen Liang stayed in the room that Zhuangzi occasionally stayed in. The remaining 4 men took a few more steps to Shao Qingyuan's medicine shop. This way, it was quite spacious. At least, it was much more comfortable than large bunks in the inn. Chen Liang was still a little emotional. When the Gu family's girl first brought her mother and younger siblings to Yongfu village, I thought that their family would probably have a difficult time without an adult man. I didn't expect that their family would have the best life in the entire village. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1028, Bringing them for storytelling. Chen Jinbao was a little proud. After all, Gu Yundong was his boss now, right? It's not just her family. Ever since she came, how many people in Yongfu village have been living a good life? In the past, everyone had to go to the city to find work in the winter. Not to mention that it was difficult to find work, even if they found it. They would work hard for 2 months. That salary wouldn't even be enough to bring them home for the new year. Now, many people are envious of our village. Who doesn't have fish and meat for the new year? Chen Liang smiled. That's right. If it wasn't for the Gu family, we would probably have to squeeze in the dilapidated temple for the night if we came to the prefectural city now. Perhaps there wouldn't even be a place for them to stay. The father and son chatted for a while before resting. The people in the other rooms were also talking about the Gu family. This was their first time in the prefectural city. Although they had the village chief Chen Liang and Chen Jinbao to lead them, they were still extremely nervous. It was only when they entered the small courtyard and saw the Gu family that they felt at ease. Now, in this unfamiliar place, there was a comfortable place to rest. It was better than anything to be able to sleep peacefully. The Gu family, on the other hand, was still the same. They rested early after dinner. The next day, Gu Yundong brought Madame Yang and Yinka out. The marks on the little girl's body were gone. These days, she had been staying in her room and had not even gone out of the courtyard. She was bored to death. Gu Yundong wanted to take her out to relax and listen to some books. Gu Dajiang was going to the academy, Gu Dafeng was going to the market, and Bian Han was going to carve, so only the 3 of them and Tong Shuitao went out. The group of them went to Gus first. When they arrived, the others were already there. At this moment, they were about to help organize the goods when Zhuangzi chased them to the backyard. We're already familiar with the job. We won't find the goods if you guys are moving them around. Go to the backyard and rest. Don't stay here and get in the way. The shop is only so big. There are so many of you. Chen Liang patted him. You brat. However, he still brought his people to the backyard. Gu Yundong went straight to the backyard to look for them. Seeing that they could not stay idle and were helping to clean the backyard and wipe the tables, he could not help but laugh. Uncle Chen, have you eaten breakfast? They've all eaten. Jean Bao said that there's a bun shop over there. We each bought 2 big buns. There's quite a lot of stuffing, but it's expensive. It costs 2 copper coins each. In our county city, it only costs 1 copper coin. Although the prefectural city was good, big, and prosperous, people without savings really could not live here. Everything was expensive. Seeing that it was about time, Gu Yundong said to them, "Let's go then. It's about time to go over now." The few of them immediately stood up. Some of them even looked at their clothes carefully and were relieved to see that they were not wrinkled. Fortune Tea House was still some distance away from Gus. When they arrived, they realized that the entire tea house was filled with people. Even the entrance was crowded. They could not pass through. Oh my God, the business of this tea house is too good. There are so many customers. A woman surnamed Wan behind Shen Liang looked at the scene in front of her and spoke in shock. Gu Yundong looked around and saw that the waiter had indeed made an aisle at the door. She quickly led her people over. The waiter recognized her. "Miss Gu, you're here? Please come in." Gu Yundong had booked a private room early and led her men inside. The people outside the door looked at them enviously. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1029. It's actually someone from our Xuanhe Prefecture. There were still many people in the tea house. They only heaved a sigh of relief when they reached the private room on the 2nd floor. Why are there so many people? It's so crowded that I almost can't breathe. Everyone wiped the sweat off their foreheads and tidied their clothes. Gu Yundong asked the waiter to serve 2 pots of tea and some dishes and snacks before letting everyone sit down. He said to Chen Liang and the others, "There aren't so many people usually. Isn't the content of today's story attractive? That's why there are so many people." Chen Liang was surprised. "You said yesterday that they were talking about cowpox vaccination, right? Didn't you say that you were done? Why haven't you gotten tired of hearing it after so many days? The cowpox vaccination is over. There's still more to come. You'll understand when you hear it later." Chen Liang nodded, his interest piqued. He used to go to the tea house in the county city to listen to books, but at that time, he would squat outside the door and listen attentively. This was the first time he sat in a private room on the 2nd floor of the prefectural city and even drank tea and ate snacks. This feeling was quite novel. If he felt this way, the others felt the same. They didn't dare to drink tea and just looked downstairs. Yunka was still like a little hamster. She wolfed down some braised meat. When she looked up and realized that no one was eating anything, she thought for a moment and came down from the table. She distributed a piece to each of them. Then, she nodded in satisfaction and continued to climb onto the chair to eat. Gu Yundong stroked her head and heard a commotion downstairs. He's out, he's out. Mr. Fan is out. Everyone, be quiet." As expected, there was silence downstairs. The people in the private room also craned their necks to look down. Chen Liang even stuffed the braised meat in his hand into his mouth. He widened his eyes and looked at the gentleman who had walked to the stage downstairs. He looked exceptionally elegant in his long robe. The storyteller's face was flushed. He walked to the table and arranged the shocking wood and tea before saying slowly, "I've made everyone wait. I'm late. I'll apologize to everyone here first." He bowed slightly. The guests downstairs could not wait any longer. They waved their hands and said, "Mr. Fan, don't mind these etiquettes. Hurry up and start. We've been waiting for many days." That's right, that's right. Mr. Fan, let's get started. We really want to know who the warrior who invented the cowpox vaccination method is." "Warrior?" The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She coughed lightly and took a sip of tea. Downstairs, Mr. Fan's movements were still slow. It made one's heart itch to go up and speak for him. After a moment, they heard a loud bang from the shocking wood. The extremely sudden sound made the hearts of the few people in the private room tremble violently. Even their breathing became light. Following that, she heard Mr. Fan's high-pitched voice. Speaking of which, last time, we said that someone had traveled thousands of miles to the capital and tried all means to send the cowpox vaccination method to the Song residents. It was through thousands difficulties and dangers that it was handed over to Imperial physician Song. Only then did thousands of people obtain this great blessing. Everyone was speechless. You have a lot of thousands. If you want to know who this person is, you'll have to explain in detail. Mr. Fan slammed the wooden stick in his hand again, and a proud smile suddenly appeared on his lips. What everyone didn't expect is that this person is actually from our Xuanhe Prefecture. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1030, Anger Vented. What? Everyone was shocked. Mr. Fan, are you serious? This warrior who invented the cowpox vaccination method is from our Xuanhe Prefecture? Oh my god. It's actually someone from our side. There's such a talent in Xuanhe Prefecture. Haha, so it's our fellow countrymen. Our Xuanhe Prefecture is going to be famous. Mr. Fan, hurry up and say it. Maybe you'll say it. I even know this person. Mr. Fan looked at everyone's excited expressions with satisfaction. Not to mention them, even he was proud when he found out about this. If there was a capable person in his hometown, wouldn't he be proud? He laughed. Perhaps many people know this person's identity. Mr. Fan waved his hand. Everyone knows about Shao's, right? That's right, Shao Qingyuan's pharmacy was called Shao's. After all, he and Yundong were engaged. No matter what, they had to follow each other. Her shop was called Gus, and his was called Shao's. It was so easy to remember. Moreover, they knew that they were a couple when they heard it. When everyone heard Shao's, they immediately lowered their heads and whispered. Some people present knew about Shao's, but some did not. However, in the private room on the second floor, Chen Liang and the others were extremely familiar with this name. A few of them had stayed in the backyard of Shao's yesterday. The group of people looked at each other. In the end, they focused their gazes on Gu Yundong. The latter pursed her lips. Continue listening. Downstairs, Mr. Fan's voice continued. This Shao's was opened from Fengkai County to our Xuanhe Prefecture. The owner of the pharmacy, Shao Qingyuan, is a handsome and extremely smart person. Mr. Fan, could it be that this cowpox vaccination method was invented by Shao Qingyuan and Boss Shao? Someone asked loudly. Mr. Fan laughed. That's right. It's Boss Shao. Whoosh. The entire building exploded. Chen Liang and the others upstairs were so shocked that their eyes could not move. What did they just hear? That cowpox vaccination method that could prevent smallpox was invented by Shao Qingyuan? How was this possible? Mr. Fan said, speaking of which, Boss Shao is really hiding his strength and is especially low-key. It's said that he has been interested in studying medicine since he was young. His medical talent is astonishing. Others have to memorize a medical prescription 30 to 50 times, but he memorized it after looking at it once. He can recognize those herbs that look similar after looking at them once. Let's just say that last year, there was a quack doctor scamming people in Luoyang County. Everyone knows that, right? That quack used weeds to replace medicinal herbs. He walked the streets and scammed the people in several villages. Even the master of a rich family fell for it and gave that quack doctor a lot of money for nothing. However, he didn't expect that retribution would come from the heavens. This person actually targeted Boss Shao's family. This Boss Shao runs a medicine shop, so he collects herbs everywhere. One of the herbs is very rare. Not to mention our prefectural city, even the capital might not have it. When Boss Shao heard that this quack had it, he wanted to buy it at a high price. he didn't expect this medicine to be fake. Boss Shao saw through it at a glance. Then, he realized that the herbs in this quack medicine basket were all weeds that looked similar to the original herbs. He directly got someone to send this quack to the officials so that the man wouldn't continue to harm the commoners. What do you think Boss Shao did to vent his anger? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1031, Unpretentious Reason, Satisfying. Someone immediately echoed, Mr. Fan, you don't know, but I'm from the Jiao village. Back then, I saw with my own eyes that Boss Shao saw through that quack scheme and saved the lives of the entire village. Everyone turned to look at the person who spoke. That person wiped his tears. It's true. At that time, my son happened to catch a cold. In the end, that quack prescribed medicine. Not only did he not recover in 2 days, his condition even worsened. If not for young Master Shao, my son would have been killed by that quack. Mr. Fan nodded. That's right. Fortunately, young Master Shao appeared in time. Everyone instantly had a good impression of Shao Qingyuan. I didn't expect the owner of this Shao's to be so powerful. I've seen this Boss Shao before. He's very young. I couldn't tell that he has such ability at all. You don't know, but when Shao's opened, many doctors from the prefectural city went there. At that time, those doctors went crazy when they saw the herbs in the medicine shop. They said that they were all rare good herbs and wanted to buy them one by one. Moreover, they bought sacks of them. Really? Then shouldn't we go to Shao's in the future? Anyway, if I can't find the herbs in the future, I'll go to Shao's to take a look. Gu Yundong, who was upstairs, had sharp ears. She vaguely heard some words and immediately smiled in satisfaction. How powerful was this advertisement? In the future, Brother Shao would not have to worry about business in his shop at all. Mr. Fan also looked satisfied. He took a sip of water and continued, young Master Shao is a low-key person. He never said anything even after doing such a good thing. He quietly opened a pharmacy and bought herbs. Someone asked him why he opened 2 pharmaceutical shops instead of being a doctor since he's so talented in medicine. Guess how young Master Shao replied? How did he reply? How would they know? However, since Mr. Fan wanted interaction, they would reluctantly cooperate. Someone guessed, did Boss Shao say that he's young and is afraid that everyone won't believe that his medical skills are good? I think Boss Shao must have said that he likes to solve difficult illnesses. Those minor illnesses and pains are too simple. He wants to solve those difficult illnesses that can't be solved for more than 1,000 years, such as this method to prevent smallpox, right? Everyone felt that what this person said made sense. After all, geniuses like to challenge those with difficulty. The corners of Mr. Fan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Boss Shao wasn't as noble as you made him out to be. He shook his head and said, no. Boss Shao said that he wants to earn money. He likes silver, so he wants to open a pharmacy and earn big money. Was it actually such an unpretentious and refreshing reason? Wasn't it a little vulgar? Upstairs, Gu Yundong secretly snorted. Of course, it had to be more vulgar. Otherwise, what if you think that my brother Shao is a compassionate and soft-hearted person? What if you all come to buy medicine without giving him money? Wouldn't Brother Shao suffer a huge loss if they were to use moral blackmail? Previously, when someone heard Mr. Fan say that Boss Shao had exposed the quack doctor, they felt that he was a great benevolent person. They thought that if they didn't have money, they could go to his pharmacy and cry for medicine. Now that Mr. Fan had said this reason, someone sighed in disappointment, but someone asked loudly, Mr. Fan, since Boss Shao doesn't like to be a doctor, why did he develop the cowpox vaccination method? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1032, Another Good News, Good Question. Mr. Fan was shocked. It's definitely not a coincidence that Boss Shao developed this medical prescription. This Boss Shao has a subordinate. This subordinate has a particularly pitiful background. Initially, Boss Shao didn't know about it. He accidentally heard him mention it and found out that this person's family had all died of smallpox. That was why this subordinate was alone and drifted around until he met Boss Shao. Boss Shao had been with this subordinate for a long time, so they were like brothers. After knowing his background, he began to pay attention to smallpox. He thought that if there was a way to prevent this illness, no one would be as lonely and desolate as his subordinate from a young age in the future. He thought while he was eating, sleeping, or walking. In the end, he had a flash of inspiration. If people could get smallpox, what about animals? Pigs, cows, and sheep. What would happen if they were infected with smallpox? At that time, Boss Shao ran to the farm in the suburbs. He went to see the cows first and realized that cows would get cowpox. The men who had been raising cows would also get cowpox. The problem was that those who had been infected with cowpox no longer had smallpox. Don't you think this is rare? It turns out that those who had cowpox wouldn't have smallpox anymore. Boss Shao was extremely happy. This was a very important discovery. If it's true, wasn't this a way to prevent smallpox? However, Boss Shao was still worried. He's afraid that only the cows in our Xuanhe Prefecture had this effect. What if the cows in other places don't? In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, he went to Qingyuan Prefecture, Yongning Prefecture, Wanqing Prefecture, and other prefectural cities. The results confirmed that all the situations were the same. But that wasn't enough. If it hadn't been tested on human beings, then he couldn't be sure. At this moment, that subordinate of his volunteered to experiment on himself. Boss Shao didn't agree. What if something happened? In the end, this subordinate actually contracted the cowpox himself. Wow, the people below exclaimed. They did not expect this subordinate to have such courage. If it were them, they would definitely not dare to use such an unverified medical method. If they were not careful, they would even lose their lives. Mr. Fan wiped the corners of his eyes. This is called karma. Boss Shao went to find a way to prevent smallpox because of this subordinate. This subordinate returned the favor and trusted Boss Shao so much. He was willing to take the risk. What a touching brotherhood. Gu Yundong was speechless. Why was this last sentence so strange? It felt like something was wrong. Everyone nodded repeatedly when they heard that. It was really rare to have such a deep brotherhood. Someone asked loudly, "Is that subordinate all right?" Without waiting for Mr. Fan to answer, the person beside him replied, "He must be fine. Otherwise, why would Boss Shao send this medical prescription to the capital?" Mr. Fan nodded. Indeed, that subordinate was fine. Boss Shao felt that this medical prescription was too precious and too important to the world, so he didn't care about staying at home for the new year. He rushed to the capital and handed it over to the head of the Imperial Hospital, Dr. Song. Everyone's blood boiled when they heard that. Boss Shao is too awesome. I'm proud to have such a fellow countryman. He has made a great contribution. He has brought honor to our Xuanhe Prefecture. Awesome. Mr. Fan nodded. That's right. Boss Shao is admirable. Here, I have good news for everyone. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible.